Are we almost ready? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting Tuesday, April 10th. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Ryan Terrian, a Norfolk County deputy killed in a traffic crash this morning on his way to a funeral where he was going to be an escort. And he is someone who's done work before for the town, so can we give him a moment of silence, please? Thank you. The agenda this evening starts as usual with citizens' input, followed by, we have a scheduled public hearing, a dog hearing. 7:20, a discussion about a prior report to the Attorney General regarding an open meeting law decision. 7:30 is a public hearing regarding a transfer of all alcohol package store license from the Central Wine and Spirits at 50 Central Street to Trader Joe's at the new location of 350 Patriot Place. 8:30, we'll review the non-union pay plan. 9 o'clock, the annual town meeting warrant, Articles 1 through 24. 9:30, the town manager, the fire chief, and the finance director will be reviewing a fire overtime project. At 10:30, the town manager will report back to the board on the overcrowding at the March 27th Board of Selectmen meeting, and at 10:45 is an executive session, review of executive session minutes. In between all that, we have to find time for action items. And I'd like to begin with a Pledge of Allegiance and ask Lorraine to lead us.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a microphone out front, right here at the front of the stage, so if there's anybody for citizens' input, please come down to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
One of our selectmen in the past has has expressed his desire to avoid meeting here in the high school. This forum is not and has not been in his best interests, health-wise and otherwise. I would hope that Foxborough would be a leader in inclusion rather than choose a forum that makes one of our leaders uncomfortable or worse. I think our selectmen should work towards a plan that in the future can include all of our leaders in a comfortable environment. At the last selectmen's meeting, the chair repeatedly referred to FXP LLC as the Patriots. I think we do our residents a disservice when we do not refer to parties appearing in meetings by their correct and accurate legal name. I have a copy of the 2011 annual report of FXP LLC, a Delaware corporation, dated December 14, 2011, and filed on December 16, 2011. The general character of business of the limited liability corporation is to own and operate parking lots. The report indicates that only Robert Kraft may sign documents on behalf of FXP LLC. It would be interesting to know what evidence the board obtained as to what officers FXP LLC has and who are authorized to speak on behalf of FXP LLC. The so-called FXP LLC representative made several pointed remarks during about one of our elected selectmen during the March 27th meeting. In the past, it has been the custom in Foxborough to avoid personal attacks. I believe that the chair should have admonished the so-called FXP representative for these comments. One of our citizens has read a lengthy letter and suggested that our selectmen commence negotiations with Steve Wynn to place a casino on Route 1. It is curious timing for this constant drumbeat of negotiate, negotiate, unless our local election is the reason. The Massachusetts casino statute states, in part, the Commission shall promulgate regulations for administration and enforcement of this chapter. Until such time as the Commission has promulgated its rules, it would be inappropriate for Foxborough, through its Board of Selectmen, to have any conversations with Wynn, never mind negotiations. The Commission had its first public meeting today. No rules have been promulgated at this time. The idea that Foxborough must at some point negotiate is inaccurate. The recently passed casino legislation requires a casino license applicant to negotiate with the host community. It, however, does not require any community to either negotiate or become a host community. It has been suggested that somehow Wynn can go around the Board of Selectmen and either negotiate an agreement with a group of citizens, or that a group of citizens can force our selectmen to negotiate. Both of these ideas are incorrect. In the first, if Wynn were to negotiate with 200 citizens as suggested, there is no group of citizens, 200 or otherwise, authorized to negotiate on behalf of our town. Any such negotiations and the results thereof would be null and void and thus meaningless. The second, that a group through a warrant at town meeting can force the Board of Selectmen to negotiate, is also incorrect. The Board of Selectmen is the legal entity elected to govern Foxborough. No selectman can be required to act in any manner by town meeting. The voters have the right to choose the selectmen, but that is all. No selectman can be directed or required to vote on any matter in a specific way. The townspeople cannot usurp the job of the properly elected selectmen. The selectmen are entitled to use their judgment and exercise reasonable discretion in carrying out their job. The right to elect the selectmen is the sole remedy available to our town voters. The Massachusetts casino statute contains an interesting section dealing with conflicts. In part, it states as follows: the commissioners and those employees holding major policy-making positions shall, 1, conduct themselves in a manner so as to render decisions that are fair and impartial and in the public interest. 2, avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all matters under their jurisdiction. 3, avoid all prohibited communications. 4, require staff and personnel subject to their direction and control to observe the same standards of fidelity and diligence. 5, disqualify themselves from proceedings in which their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Due to time constraints, I have only quoted a portion of this section. Now is the time for the people of Foxborough to require the highest ethical standards from our selectmen. We must ensure that our selectmen are independent and not conflicted in any manner. It is imperative that we go beyond the Mass statutes and pass a bylaw that sets the standard for the entire state. Our selectmen must avoid even the appearance of impropriety. I strongly urge our selectmen to begin work on this at once. In the alternative, we, the residents, will bring forward a very strong conflict of interest warrant for a special town meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments? Anything else in citizens' input?
I just have a point of information.
Yes.
Will citizens be allowed to speak during the Trader Joe hearing or after?
Yes, I'll allow some citizens'
Okay.
comments, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Seeing none other, the next item is a mixed breed dog issue, Meadowview Road. Sue, are you with us tonight? Is our town manager going to handle this?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if it pleases the board, what I'm going to do is read the report into the record, and we have reached an agreed settlement on this so that the board will not need to conduct the full hearing.
Okay.
Well,
Do we not need to?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you could have the clerk read the hearing
So,
notice.
clerk, would you read it?
Board of Selectmen pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140S, 157, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, April 10, 2012, at 7:10 p.m. at the Foxborough High School Auditorium at 120 South Street to consider the restraint or disposal of a mixed breed from the town of Foxborough. The dog owned by Mark Brennan, 7 Meadowview Road, Foxborough, Mass. All interested parties invited to attend.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the long and the short of this is that a dog attacked another dog. All of the events were witnessed and verified by the participants, including the dog owner, both the dog that attacked the dog and the dog that was injured. This was a second instance. The animal control officer issued an interim order using her authority and asked that the board make that interim order permanent pursuant to your authority under the statute 140 as follows. That the brindle-spayed female mixed-breed dog named Lacey must be physically confined on the property of Mark Brennan at 7 Meadowview Road, Foxborough, Mass. At all times, unless held on a leash by a responsible adult or kept inside of a house or confined within a vehicle, unquote. I am told by the animal control officer, who is here tonight, that the owners of the dog are amenable to this order, and they don't contest it in any way and don't intend to contest it further. If the board finds that sufficient action in this case, then you make that finding and the matter is closed.
Linda, any questions?
Have to state the facts and then,
Right, but do you have any questions for the town manager or the dog officer?
no.
Lorraine? No. Jim?
No questions.
Mark? Okay. So do we want to stipulate, Linda?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Well, before you close the public hearing, are there any comments from anyone in the audience? Seeing none?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before, in case the dog owner is here, Mark Brennan, Chair should offer him an opportunity
Right,
to say anything.
I've asked
he's
if there's
here.
anybody who has any comments to make. Okay. All right, thank you very much, sir.
So I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that we adhere to the animal control officer's findings that Lacey will be physically confined on the property of Mark Brennan at 7 Meadowview Road, Foxborough, at all times, unless held on a leash by a responsible adult or kept inside the house or confined within a vehicle.
There's a motion. Is there a second? So moved. Second by Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, the next item on the agenda, and just to be very brief, the town manager received a letter from the Attorney General. Dear Mr. Pecos, this office received a complaint from Mr. Haydecker on May 16th alleging a violation of open meeting law. Mr. Haydecker filed 2 complaints with the town of Foxborough, one with the Board of Selectmen on April 25th, 2011, and another with the Capital Improvement Planning Committee on April 28th. We reviewed the complaints filed on April 25th and April 28th, your May 9th, 2011 response, and the complaint filed with this office on May 16th, 2011. We also reviewed the Selectmen meeting agenda from March 29th and April 12th, the committee agenda from April 26th, and an email from the complainant to this office dated June 8th. We find that neither the board nor the committee violated the open meeting law. I would also just say that the board is committed to continue to work with Dick and any other citizen when we have an issue, and we thank Dick for bringing it to everybody's attention, and we appreciate the Attorney General finding that we weren't in violation. Okay. Now, let's see. We've got a few minutes before the public hearing, so why don't we go to action items? See if we can get those out of the way. Okay. Everybody has their action items. The first are the minutes of March 13th, 2012 Board of Selectmen meeting. Mark, do you have any questions or comments?
I just had a couple.
Go ahead, Linda.
Colleen, when you spell Inventus, it's SYS. On the first page, that shows up a couple times. And on page 3, the second sentence. No, it's 1, 2, 3. It starts off with Randy Scollins explained.
Yes.
Okay, is included in? Not just, okay. And then on page 5, the second paragraph from the bottom, I don't think that I was referring to the billboards issue.
No.
Yes. I think that,
There was 2 issues on 2 letters on the casino.
I was talking about the casino, not the billboards issue, so can we put,
change that to.
yes, please?
Yes. And when I check my minutes, you're absolutely right.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, I move that we accept the minutes from March 13th.
Well,
Oh.
before you,
Anybody else have?
I just want to see if anyone else had any comments. Lorraine?
No.
Jim? No. Okay, go ahead then, Linda.
Move that we accept the minutes from March 13th.
Second.
There's a motion.
As amended.
There's a
Sorry.
motion and as a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. There's a request from Debbie Giordano. Request approval of a temporary street sign to assist traffic flow for the Boy Scouts' second annual Chuck event at the CRRA property on Mill Street on June 1st and 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Mark, second by Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Bob Hicks has notified us of the resignation of Charlie Clifford from the Foxborough Historical Commission. Is there a motion to accept that with gratitude?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Signed bylaw committee, renewal appointments of Bill Casbar, Lee Estabrook, and John Rhodes to a 1-year term expiring 3/8/2012.
So moved.
Motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Linda. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. There's a request from Michael Johns to accept a donation. I will abstain from this, or recuse myself from it, from Larry and Judy Harrington to the Veterans Gift Fund to be used to for postage to care packages to the troops.
Move to accept with gratitude.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain. One-day entertainment license for a car show to be held at 59 Washington Street on May 19th, 2012.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion?
Shouldn't it be Ocean State? I don't know if it needs to be correct on here, but.
Oh, and the Ocean State Jeepsters, the
Well,
first line?
was it an M? I mean, it's
Yeah, I
just-
think it's just a typo.
I just don't know if it needs to be correct when we.
On the actual
sign.
license?
Yeah,
Show
it's
it to Kevin.
actually, it's the first line has an M, the second line has DBA Ocean with an N. So,
Right, so I don't know if it's,
I think when we sign it tonight, we'll just
okay,
make sure, yeah.
just cross it out.
all right.
There's a request for a common victualer's license for Lowen's Cafe to be open in the Foxborough Sports Center, 10 East Belcher Road.
So
Well,
moved.
did we vote on this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
missed the vote.
So there was a motion and a second on the entertainment license discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now there's the request for the common victualer's license for Lowen's Cafe to be open in the Foxborough Sports Center, 10 East Belcher Road.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Mark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. A request approval of the annual opening day parade for the Inventus parking lot to the Booth Playground on April 14th, 2012 for Foxborough Youth Baseball and Softball.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Lorraine, second by Linda. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Request for a message to be included in the football program ad book sponsored by the Aleppo Shriners. I couldn't tell if this is if they're asking for a paid advertisement or just asking for an insertion from the board.
If they're asking for a donation, that would violate the 88 amendments to the Constitution. We wouldn't be able to do it. If, on the other hand, it's just support, then we could do it. So the board could couch their motion that way, and we'll take appropriate
We'll
action.
just draft a letter and have them inserted if they wish, but there's nothing with it.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to present the message from the chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Was that Lorraine seconded? Okay. Motion by Jim, second by Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Kevin, if you just have Sandra type that up and we'll get that out. Invitation to Dayton's Founders Day celebration of the town's 300th anniversary. So noted. And a public hearing is scheduled for April 19th for a special permit for an accessory apartment at 239 East Street. Also noted. Okay. We have 7:25. So we've got just a few minutes before we start the public hearing. Kevin, do you want to just cover the report of the overcrowding on the March 27th, and we can probably cover that between now and the public hearing?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I'll just read this. It's pretty brief.
Yep, please.
To Board of Selectmen, per the board's request, this is my memo regarding an inquiry into the overcrowding events of March 27, 2012, which occurred at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. I have asked the police chief, fire chief, and building inspector to provide me with their memo regarding the events which took place that night, and their memos are attached. I interviewed the three on March 29, 2012 in my office regarding their recollection of the events at the Board of Selectmen meeting. They all recalled that the meeting was crowded and that room capacity was quickly reached as monitored by the building commissioner using a handheld clicker. Just prior to the meeting start, with several additional persons in the hall adjacent to the meeting room seeking admittance. The building commissioner, excuse me, and the fire chief advised Chairman Harrington of the situation and asked that he request those in attendance if they would consider leaving the room if they were not present for the first agenda item. Chairman Harrington announced that the room capacity was close to being exceeded and that he would end the meeting if we reached that capacity. At that point, several people stood up and said they would go home to watch the meeting, and they asked if we could delay the start of the meeting until they got home. The chairman said no. Approximately 8 people left the room at that point. Those persons standing in the hall were allowed to enter and the meeting started. Just after the start of the meeting, additional people entered the hallway, and the building commissioner, fire chief, and police chief advised persons in the hallway that they would need to remain in the hallway until others left the room. As other persons left the room, those in the hallway were allowed into the meeting room. The presence of additional people in the hallway was not communicated to the board during the meeting. I believe the two chiefs and the commissioner acted in a responsible manner and in a belief that they were following the intent of the chair to ensure that the room capacity was not exceeded. I was not present at the start of the meeting and was unaware of any overcrowding issues. I also spoke with Advisory Commission member Larry Thomas, who was present in the hallway during the meeting and who was denied admission to the room. He indicates this recitation of the facts is accurate as respects his experience that night. My conclusions. A violation of the open meeting law occurred when town officials denied persons in the hallway access to the meeting. Those town officials believed they were acting in a manner consistent with the instructions of the chair. Their memos of explanation are attached to this memo. I believe the violation was the product of innocent intent and a desire to complete the board's business that night. However, the open meeting law requires all persons who desire to attend a meeting to be allowed access. If room size is insufficient to allow that, the meeting must be adjourned to another location or terminated. Arrangements have been made to ensure all future meetings have sufficient room space available, as is the case with the meeting tonight, which is scheduled at the high school auditorium. And the two chiefs and the commissioner's reports are attached, and I believe you find them consistent with what I wrote. A violation did occur. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that. If a complaint is made to the Attorney General, there has been no complaint made yet. Mr. Thomas, for his part, indicates that as long as there was public acknowledgement of the mistake and corrective action taken, that he would be unlikely to file a complaint. But of course, that's his right, as is any other citizen who was there that night and who was denied admittance. This would be entered into evidence in the case of a hearing with the Attorney General, and I believe the worst that would happen is she would acknowledge agreement with these facts and with the conclusion and would just say, ensure that it doesn't happen again. Going forward, just an advisory to the board. Your meeting room at the town hall only holds 59 people. With a temporary closing of the library during construction, we're denied 2 meeting rooms there. We don't have any meeting rooms. The McGinty room at the Public Safety Complex actually holds less people with the tables in there than the meeting room at Town Hall does. So we're really limited to the 3 schools. Burrell holds, I think, about 250. Junior high holds around 300 or 400. And of course, this room, I think, is rated around 700. So when we have subject matter, and we're having it more and more frequently, obviously, that exceeds 59, we are really going to be hard-pressed to accommodate the public, and yet that is the only choice we are offered under the open meeting law. So my suggestion to the board, and what I'll do in cooperation with the chair, is when we have controversial subjects, we'll try to lump them together on agendas, get a school venue for the meeting, and reserve your agendas for town hall for less controversial subjects when 59 capacity will allow. It's going to be a bit of a juggle, I'm going to tell you, because you have some controversial items. We're going to have more and more of that probably in the future, and it's definitely going to be a struggle because the schools, their auditoriums are in constant use, and so our ability to get those rooms is very limited. So it's going to be a struggle. But.
And I would share with the board that I called Bill Caspar the day after the event, and I apologized to him and I apologized to Larry. What I've said to Bill is that if we're at the town hall, the minute we hit 59 people, we'll end the meeting at that point from now on. I understand what Bill was trying to do. He was trying to keep the meeting going, but when we hit 59, the meeting is over. We'll try to schedule as many meetings as we can when we think there's a controversy or when we think there's a large crowd like there is tonight at a location like this. And if all the schools are booked, then we'll have to figure out a different arrangement. But we're not going to, at least I said to Bill that we're not going to put him in a situation as we did last time where he's there with a counter. Once we get to the 59, it's just easier to end the meeting. The business will have to wait till the next meeting. If we have to, we can post a meeting, 48 hours later and have another meeting to continue the business if there's a larger room available. So, again, on behalf of the board, Mr. Thomas, we apologize. Any comments from the board?
Just a quick shout out. I know the short time I've been on the board, December, January, there's big topics. Speaking a little bit with one of the members of the planning board, Bill Greeter, it's come up before where when this board needs additional room, we'll say, well, let's meet next Tuesday, but it is difficult for the schools to rearrange in the schedule, but also Foxborough cable access, the majority of people are volunteers. To move to any other school besides a high school, it's difficult for them. They've got to set up trucks and, you know, even these cameras here. It's a lot of work. So maybe in the future we start to think of a process so when it comes up, there's some dialogue between the elected boards, the school committee, cable access, so it's not going to be easy. There's not a lot of facilities that can accommodate us, but some thought before it happens again.
Jim, what we may want to think about as a board is permanently moving our meetings out of town hall. If we were to schedule, I'm not saying, but just you pick Borough as an example, and you booked a year in advance, we might have a better chance of that. Mm-hmm. But rather than, some of these agenda items come fairly quickly, and you're right, once there's no place to put it. So I think the board should consider moving our meetings permanently to a larger facility. We could do, for instance, I believe where the school committee has their meeting room, that's set up already, and there's plenty of room in that library to handle more than the 59 people I think that we cover. But there's, so we ought to, I think, be looking at doing it on a more permanent basis rather than a hit and miss. But any other comments from board members? Okay, we have a 7:30 public hearing. Mark, would you read the public notice, please?
Board of Selectmen, the Town of Foxborough, acting like local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, April 10th, 2012, at 7:30 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Auditorium, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., on an application for transfer of license, change of location, change of manager of an all-alcohol beverage package store license from VARC Incorporated, DBA Central Wine and Spirits, to 50 Central Street, Foxborough, Mass., to Trader Joe's East, Inc., DBA Trader Joe's, number 528, manager David Ford, with a new location at 350 Patriots Place, Foxborough, Mass., premises in whole of leasing retail space and storage space consisting of 20,331 square feet. All interested parties are interested to show up at the hearing. Thanks.
Thank you. We have special counsel with us this evening who handles alcohol matters, and he's going to be standing in for the town manager.
Larry, if I could.
Go ahead, please, Mark.
I just want to let everybody know, since the meeting's here tonight, I couldn't go see the town clerk and put in a, help me out, Larry.
A notification.
A notification. I know Billy Bacchus. We're not best friends.
The person,
you know, that's selling the package store, Central Wine and Spirits. If anybody objects to me being part of this hearing, they should speak up now, and I'll recuse myself. I don't see the need for it. I just wanted to make it, you know, aware to everybody that I do know him. I think half the town knows him, but.
Right. I mean, I know Billy too, so.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Lou, do you want to, we'll invite the applicant up here to the table?
Sure.
So the applicant, if they're here, if they come up here to the table, please. And we can get a couple more chairs if we need, but.
Interviewing a citizen, people let people speak before we get into dialogue.
I also let the board speak first, but then let people speak, that doesn't matter.
Much better if you speak first.
Let me get another chair. Let me just get you another chair. Okay, would you state your name, please, for the record?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrew Upton from the law firm of DiNicola, Seligson and Upton, representing Trader Joe's East Incorporated.
Okay.
I'm Chris McGuire, Regional Vice President for Trader Joe's here in the Northeast.
And I'm David Ford. I will be the manager on record for the alcohol license.
Okay. You want to make a brief opening statement?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, members. Thank you for hearing us tonight. My name is Andrew Upton. I represent Trader Joe's, and we are applying for the transfer of a liquor license, a change of location, and the appointment of a new manager. With me are Chris McGuire, who's the regional manager, and David Ford, the proposed manager of record. Also with us in the audience is Brant Chirac, who's in charge of real estate development for Trader Joe's, and he's available to participate or answer questions as needed. Tonight, the board has to consider the character and fitness of the applicant for the license, as well as the public need and the common good for the license at this location. Trader Joe's is a high-quality operator, and they've proven their fitness as a licensee through their stewardship of 3 stores in Cambridge, Framingham, and Brookline, who have sold alcoholic beverages since the mid-'90s for the last 16 years. They last had a violation of any kind more than 10 years ago, and neither the regional manager nor the proposed manager of record has ever had a violation of any kind. They're both here tonight, and they'll give you some detail on the strict management and training requirements that Trader Joe's imposes on the employees in stores that sell alcohol. Trader Joe's is also known for its community participation and local hiring practices, and they are a frequent supporter of local organizations. Trader Joe's is excited about coming to Foxborough. Shortly, the management team will tell you in detail about their proposed operations. I believe the board will find Trader Joe's to have the character and fitness for approval, but you must also consider the public need for a license at this type of establishment. The public need for Trader Joe's is clear. Norfolk County is underserved by this type of retailer, and residents in Foxborough and surrounding towns want Trader Joe's. The webpage Bring Trader Joe's to Foxborough has over 1,200 visitors, and market research commissioned by Patriot Place indicates that Trader Joe's is the stated choice of markets for Patriot Place visitors. We have some research that we'd like to submit as an exhibit to the board that gives some detail into the interest of people surveyed who are visiting Patriot Place in terms of what additional stores and amenities they would like, and Trader Joe's is a clear choice. Trader Joe's needs a license to give these customers the full Trader Joe's experience. Unique wines and craft beers and the tastings and pairings that drive sales and customer satisfaction are integral to the Trader Joe's business plan and to customer satisfaction. Trader Joe's does not sell Bud. They don't sell Miller. They don't sell Coors. We don't sell kegs. We don't sell beer balls. In Massachusetts, we don't even sell cold beer. Trader Joe's sells specialty beers and wines designed to complement food. Trader Joe's sells quality, not quantity. We'd like to submit for the record Trader Joe's Fearless Flyer, which is a newsletter. It's the only type of advertising that Trader Joe's does. It comes out 5 times a year listing specialty foods, recipes, specialized wines, and we submit this so you can get a sense of what type of things that Trader Joe's is promoting, and also a sense that alcohol is a complement to the food offerings. In fact, I believe in this edition, alcohol represented by some specialty wines does not appear until page 8, which is directly followed by Thai chili lime cashews, I believe. Not only is there a demonstrated public need for this type of establishment, the TJ or Trader Joe's expansion model requires it. Few retailers are expanding in this economy. Trader Joe's wants to be in Norfolk County and wants to be at Patriot Place in Foxborough. But without unique alcohol offerings to help drive sales, the model doesn't work, and the store would be better situated in a town that allowed the full business model to thrive. We believe this is a higher and better use for the license we propose to purchase. Currently, there are 3 alcohol retailers in a 1-mile radius where the current Central Wine is located. If the board grants this transfer, this alcohol service establishment will be 1.7 miles from the nearest competitor or additional liquor store. We also believe that the board should consider the fact that this use of the license would have few or no negative impacts. There'd be no impact on noise. There are no schools nearby. There would be no impact on additional traffic. There are no churches nearby. Trader Joe's closes at 9 p.m. every night. So in short, the public need is there. The community benefits are there because we intend to support the community. We expect to hire 70 to 80 people, and we will have a job hiring preference for Foxborough residents. We will be paying significant taxes, and we'll be filling a building, which is the old Circuit City, which has been empty for close to 2 years. Again, the negative impacts are not significant, nor are they enumerated. This unique operation needs this license to pursue its business model and to provide the scope and experience that Foxborough residents have clearly requested. At this time, I'd like to have Chris McGuire give you some detail about the operation and walk through the proposed site and floor plan. And we're also going to hand out a little extra material for the record that includes some FAQs about Trader Joe's, an additional copy of the flyer, some donations that we have historically made both to charities and to local food banks, as well as another copy of the market research is in there. So if it pleases the board, Chris McGuire.
Well, good evening. As we've heard several times tonight, I'm Chris McGuire. I'm the Regional Vice President for the Northeast with Trader Joe's. I've been with Trader Joe's for over 20 years. I think I've served the company in every capacity, both in the stores as well as the office. My most recent stint in the stores was 5 years as the general manager or captain at the Brookline location. And I've been in my current role for a little over 3 years now. So I want to take the opportunity to thank you all for giving me the opportunity, giving us the opportunity to introduce our store to you, what we propose to do, and to share a little bit of the excitement that we have for it, because we're certainly excited. As Andrew mentioned, we've been wanting to come to this part of Massachusetts for a long time, and I think Brant can attest to that. And I can attest from being the store captain in Hanover, where I live, when we opened that store, the day we opened that store, there were throngs of people through there. When are you coming to Foxborough? When are you coming to Walpole? So I think the demand has been there for a while as well. What I was hoping to do tonight is just give you an idea of what the store will look like, both from an exterior perspective as well as walking through. Can I stand up? So this will be the exterior of the store. As you can see, we're going to do extensive remodeling to the front facade, bumping it up. Really giving it a fresh, new, clean look. I was just joking with Brent earlier. I think this will be the most current version of Trader Joe's in the chain when we're done. So really a beautiful facade and something we're really proud of. My human easel here. And then from the store layout, and I hope you can see this okay, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of go ahead and walk you through the store as you would shop the store. We have the main entrance here. So you'll come through the main entrance and you'll walk directly into a relatively large floral section. We're big in flowers and plants and orchids and that kind of thing, and that typically leads the shop off. From there, you'll walk into a produce section. Sell a significant amount of produce, both refrigerated as well as non-refrigerated, bananas, apples, potatoes, onions, the whole complement that you would find in a typical supermarket, although we like to think a little better. So that'll kind of comprise this whole front quarter of the store. Over here we'll have bakery, fresh bakery delivered every day. We'll have specialty items, sweets, pastries, artisan breads delivered daily. Back in this corner is something we're certainly proud of. This is our food demonstration area. This area is specifically designed to give our customers the opportunity to try some of our products that they might not have feel the need to try on their own. To introduce new things to customers, and that includes food as well as wine. Recently, I was in one of our wine stores in Framingham, and they were doing a wine pairing with ham and a Pinot Noir for Easter. And it was just a nice compliment. It was a nice presentation, and overall, an excellent job. So something we do very well, and we do quite often. So as you continue on the shopping, we'll have a full dairy section, selection of milk, eggs, juice, yogurt, that type of thing. You'll get into a refrigerated section, dips, hummus, spreads, salsas, and then ending up with meat, butcher shop, although we don't have butchers, but we do sell a pretty amazing selection of fresh meats and artisan cheeses, so fresh cut artisan cheeses. From there, you'll kind of get into the inner aisles here. We have a full grocery section, pastas, pasta sauces, a lot of frozen foods, something we pride ourselves in, a large quantity of excellent, high-quality frozen foods, heat and eat kind of stuff, specific to Trader Joe's, beverages, snacks, health and beauty aids, small pets, a very small pet section, but it's still there, vitamins and so forth. So as you kind of round out the experience, the store, this is the area of the store where we plan to have the beer and wine, kind of probably more or less in this triangle here. You know, pretty typical, a couple of small wine sections. We'll have beer here. As Andrew mentioned, at this point in time, we don't have cold beer. And then you round out the shopping experience with our checkouts up along this wall, and you'll exit out along the vestibule that you came in at. So overall, a very, I think, good presentation for Trader Joe's. Yeah. So in addition to that, we're proud of the stores that we put forward, but we're also proud of our involvement in the community. And I know a lot of companies tout their involvement in the community, but it's something that we really do. We really do it every day, and I've got this guy up here to support me. But kind of in preparation for this meeting, I called our representative at the Greater Boston Area Food Bank, because we do a lot of work through them, both with our affiliate organizations as well as them directly. And they pulled some interesting numbers. In the last 6 months, Trader Joe's in just the Greater Boston area has contributed roughly 78,000 pounds of food to the food bank. And in Dave's current store right now, he's the captain in Hanover, they've donated in the last month about 3,000 pounds of food to the local area food banks and shelters and pantries through the Greater Boston. So something we're really proud of. I think Dave's going to speak a little bit more to that. So once again, we're really excited to be coming. We think we're going to bring something great and exciting to the community, and we also feel like it's going to be a very strong partnership for Trader Joe's. So, thank you.
All right. Dave?
Well, first off, my name is Dave Ford. I will be the store manager in Foxborough. I live in Walpole right now, my wife and I. We have a house on East Street, and I don't think anybody's more excited than I am, because I'm going to have the shortest commute of any Trader Joe's manager. I grew up in Bridgewater. I've spent my whole life in Massachusetts. You know, I've worked at the stadium before part-time when they were demolishing the old stadium and building the new one. So as far as my involvement with Trader Joe's goes, I've been with the company for 8.5 years. I spent many of those years in the high-volume stores with alcohol, Brookline, Cambridge, and I was actually the manager of record for the Brookline store as well, with their alcohol license. If you don't know, the Brookline store is basically right in between Boston College and Fenway Park. So there's a lot of college-age shoppers. There's a lot of foot traffic that goes through that store, and basically it's pretty much double of the projected what we think we're going to do in Foxborough. So it's a very busy store. One thing that we did with the alcohol is we worked very closely with the Brookline Police Department. We knew basically the beat cops, the ones that walked, and they walked right by our store every day. We worked closely with them, took feedback from them on how to improve what we do. One of their pieces of feedback was to have all our managers carry cell phones, which is something that we don't do as a company. But therefore, if anything happened, we had their direct line on us right then, right there. So we did that. All managers, you know, were required to do so. I met with Chief O'Leary, I believe it was March 15th. We kind of went over our plan for, you know, how we're going to train and develop our crew to deal with alcohol and the sale of alcohol. And he was okay with this plan. But briefly, the training program goes through our policy, why we check IDs, the consequences of not checking IDs, what's an acceptable ID, how to verify IDs, and how to handle difficult situations. As far as crew members go, they have to be 18 years of age or older to run a register at our store. They cannot run a register until they have completed the course and passed the exam at the end. As Chris showed you earlier, the manager station is right outside the alcohol section. And if you don't know Trader Joe's, our manager station is basically a 4-foot wall. We don't have an office. We are expected to be on the sales floor for 90% of our day. It's for the customers. It's for our experience. It's for doing what we do well. And with that being said, I like to spend a lot of my time in the alcohol section because, A, it's something we don't have in every store. So you get the opportunity to do the pairings. Because once people have shopped, I don't want to give away too much of what we do, but you kind of enter the store, you get your sides, your center of the plate, and then you round out your experience in that wine section, and you're looking for pairings. You're looking for, I'm having a cod dish tonight. What bottle of wine would you recommend? How light of a white would you go? And that's really the part that excites me about the job that I do and, what we do at Trader Joe's. So getting into the donations, we have a donations program for the community. And a lot of that has to do with, we do a lot of work with the schools, the arts, and we help by, a lot of places will do raffles. So we give out tons of raffle bags that they can raffle off. Proceeds go to whatever charity that, is being looked at that day. We also have, worked with bigger events and set up cheese tables. We'll do the hors d'oeuvres for the party. For any school function, we'll set up a table, we'll man it, we'll come in and do all that and help out that way. Just some things that we can do to kind of help everybody out, to be a part of the community, especially with myself living here. It's big for me. It's going to be great. I'm the guy that, is in charge, and I'm in my backyard. And I take my job very seriously. And anything that's going to go down is going to have my name on it, and I want it all to be in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other comments you want to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention that Trader Joe's typical revenue mix in a store that has alcohol is usually over 80% food and under 20% alcohol sales. So we look to alcohol as a complement to the food sales, just as if you would go to a restaurant and order a glass of wine. You go to Trader Joe's and you pick out a specialized bottle of wine or a craft beer to go with your dinner. If we don't have that option, just like there are certain restaurants people wouldn't go to if you couldn't get a glass of wine, we feel that we lose customers and we lose the full Trader Joe's experience that customers want if we don't have the ability to pair that food with the specialized craft beers and wines that we offer.
Okay. Before the board asks their questions, do you want to take some comments from the audience, and then you can have your questions? So
Yes.
I'll ask if there's anybody that would like to make comments. We're going to ask you to come up here to the microphone. And I know that before we start, I was asked if there's an attorney here that could go first, and I had said he'd go first. So Dennis, we'll have you go second, if you don't mind, please.
I don't mind at all.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is, I don't know if this is working, but my name is Phil Mackey. I represent the Coalition of Concerned Citizens.
Again, your name, sir?
Philip Mackey, spelled M-A-C-C-H-I. I'm of the firm of Mackey & Mackey LLP of 1256 Washington Street in Norwood. I do represent the council. Just to give you some comfort level to realize it, that just for instance, Stephen Kinrahan is on it, Edward O'Malley is on it, Christopher Saborjan is on it, Terry Hill. These are all Foxborough residents, to give you an idea that I'm not just here for any other person other than the coalition. What I would like to clarify, needless to say, it has been brought forth to me on a number of occasions. We had submitted last Friday a memorandum, and with that memorandum was a petition. And I would like to address that petition specifically to basically clarify that there was no intent to defraud. And if I may, with the chair's permission, it was sent to your board, I believe, on April 7th. Now, we didn't wait till this evening to send it to blindside anyone. We sent it ahead of time. And basically, the covering letter said, quote, to Town of Foxborough Board of Selectmen. This petition was initially circulated in opposition to the proposal to add an additional retail liquor store at Route 1 several months ago. We wanted to clarify that right from the beginning. While that application for license transfer was withdrawn, the sentiment with regards to the off-purpose license on Route 1 has not changed. I just wanted to stress that never have we ever even given any indication that that was to Trader Joe's. And if it is, I would like to misspell it because clearly it isn't. As you have counsel here, just to give you more of a comfort level, anything that is submitted to a board is really subject to a determination of to what probative value you want to give it. I think your counsel will tell you. You can get it and said it was really applicable to something that never happened and disregard it. You could say, I think it has some value. So it isn't binding on anything, but I did want to dispel the issue that we were submitting that for this application. It was basically to show as a corollary to the argument that there really isn't necessarily this driving force to have liquor at Patriot Place. To be quite candid with you, I am a patron, and my whole family is a patron of Trader Joe's. We go to the one in Brookline. So do we find anything wrong with it? The coalition has no issues at all with the locus being in Patriot Place. What the real crux of the issue is, however, is really it boils down to its location. As you know, and you're well aware, and I will recite some of the executive session minutes that you have of the problems that you've had up there, that it's really the location and the liquor combination that we feel to be some real issue. Council made a point that there are only so many liquor establishments within the area. If you go along, and I actually digressing a little because originally I was going to just address Foxborough, but Council alluded to the fact that Norfolk County needed the deed, not just Foxborough. If you take that into consideration and just go along the Route 1 corridor, and you encompass what's the town of Foxborough and Sharon and Walpole, there are over 23 liquor establishments in the town and vicinity. You really have to question when we talk about public deed. I thought it was very interesting in the comments that were made that Trader Joe's may need it. The real question, though, in the statute is on public need is not whether Trader Joe's need it, is whether or not the community, i.e. the town of Foxborough, not the county, but whether or not there is a need in your town for another liquor establishment to compete with long outstanding businesses. And again, competition has nothing to do with the criteria. If we ever alluded to that, it would be ludicrous. But it is a question is there a need for another license? And that is something that I can't answer, but you would have to answer. I think what we tried to do is put together somewhat of a package. I will tell you that just in the town of Foxborough now, and I'm trying to do that. You have 3 full liquor licenses and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically beer and wine licenses. Now, it's sort of interesting when we mentioned beer and wine versus full liquor. Before you is not a beer and wine license. Before you is an application to transfer an all-alcoholic beverage license. Now, taking that into consideration, I respectfully listened to the applicants. I think they were very erudite, but not once in all that discussion did they mention hard liquor, spirits. There was a discussion, and they showed you a chalk or a plan of the store, and on that store they showed you, and they mentioned beer, they mentioned wine. Never was there mention that this is an all-alcoholic license and where it would be. I think that you're well aware, because I understand you've been already looking at this issue, they can't pocket that license. If they get an all-alcoholic beer and wine, they're supposed to sell all alcoholic beverages, including spirits. There was no mention of that. That is probably the key ingredient. Do I take umbrage with the fact that they sell beer or they sell wine? Not that it's ideal, but the spirits causes much consternation. If you look at the statute, and I was glad that you had counsel here, the first real issue is to protect what? The public need. Now, the public need is basically, what does the public require? Not what the store needs to operate, not what the store in general wants to operate, is what does the public need? Now, when you look at public need, that's a rather broad station. And I did digress. It's sort of an interesting thing, because if you recall, and you may not recall, but back in 2006, there was a ballot question. And in that ballot question, it was statewide and local, is whether or not wine sales should be allowed in food stores. Not even beer, not alcohol, just wine. A poll came out, and it was published in Boston.com, that Foxborough voted 4,198 against having wine alone in a food store, and 2,564 for. In substance, when you talk about need, 62% of the public, the citizens of this town, basically voted against wine. It shows as an indicia that there isn't necessarily the need as may be perceived. If you go further, and I'm going to be sort of succinct, because in deference to counsel, I thought they were very proper. The license itself, the alcoholic beverage, the all-alcohol beverage, is basically just what it is. It's a license. You can grant it. You don't have to grant it. It's not a property right. They have no right to sell it. And I will go on later on that there is a provision that basically, even if they met all of the criteria of the statute, if you felt for any reason that it wasn't appropriate, that you didn't need to grant it. We dealt briefly on public need, which I'll go in, but the real issue, I think, here is what's good for the protection of the common good. And this is really the crux of the coalition's issue, is Patriot Place. I will read you some excerpts as we go along. But Patriot Place, since its inception, has had its problems with the enforcement of liquor at the stadium, most particularly in the parking lot. And if you read the Foxborough Reporter or the Sun Chronicle, and I've got some excerpts of them, they really sort of lambaste that area, nothing to do with the coalition, in having an inordinate amount of activity. Now, when you take a look at that, I guess I would ask if you would be so kind, Mr. Ford, as to hold up the picture of what it looks like. If you would do that, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Mackey, could I just ask you, we got other people that want to speak. How long do you intend to, before you wrap up?
I will try to go.
We want to be very respectful.
I will try to make it as quickly as I can, but I would like to cover the points.
All right, so if you could just kind of move it along,
Okay.
I appreciate it.
If you take a look at the picture of the design, I think it's excellent. We all commend it. But you know what that's going to really do? Everyone that comes to a public event and is tailgating is going to say, gee, there's Trader Joe's. What a great deal. We can go over there, get some snacks, and what too? Get all your drinks. What no one mentions is they have high quality, great wines, great things. They don't mention the spirits where the guy goes in for the spirits and gets a nip or a half pint and gets smashed. They don't mention that at all. And I think that because you're really granting that type of license, that has to be taken into consideration. There was an issue about the...
No,
Thank you. I apologize.
You can just write down your questions if you have. I don't want this to get into a debate all night long, so let's let him finish. I want him to kind of try to do it quickly so we can hear the other folks, and the board has their questions as well. We'll let you respond, okay?
The other component is, and I guess this came right from the website of Trader Joe's, there was an indication that 80% of everything is food and 20% is liquor. Again, no one mentions hard liquor. If you go on the web, and this, I didn't create it, this is the web from them. They talk about the Trader Joe's is the exclusive retail of the popular known thing, $2 chuck. And we all know what $2 chuck is. You can buy a bottle for $2 or $3. That's really what it is. There was a quote by a Mr. Columbi, who I don't know, but he was there. He said, "We built Trader Joe's on wine first and then food." That is directly contrary to what's being represented, and that is right in their website. If we go on further, I will say to you that the location is significantly detrimental. There are adequate numbers. What we really have to deal with is Patriot Place Stadium. I thought that Mr. Ford brought out a very good point about their training, which we all know that if anyone goes for a liquor license, whether it's in your town or any town, they want tips training, they want management. As you know, you look at the floor plan to verify that there's a way of monitoring the liquor and how it's being sold. And they also added this, which is an indication which we perceive to be a situation where alcohol is more than a minority part. It says, "We will have up to 25% additional staff on hand to manage the store and games. We will make this available. Further, on game days, we will oversee the cashiers and be immediately available to handle any complicated situations." Those complicated situations are going to be someone coming in and getting a drink or buy a bottle and becoming obnoxious. Think of it this way. You know what the traffic is like. Forget traffic issue. But there's probably 50 or 70,000 people that come in and are in those parking lots. They're going to see that picture. They're going to see Trader Joe's and say, geez, we don't have to go anywhere. We can go and get all we want for our tailgating. I respectfully find that that is not in common good.
Mr. Mackey, would you try to wrap it up in one more minute, please?
Respectfully, I can't do that.
Please be respectful, folks.
If I do that, can I finish then subsequently? Because I am not through. I'll
give you one more minute, and then I want to hear from some of the other folks. And then if there's time at the end of the hearing, we'll let you come back.
Okay. I would like to have the record note then that I am being curtailed. I would like that on the record.
Okay.
Basically, the report of the chief basically said, and this is in 2009, they had 278 issues of arrests in ascension. And on that same time, they said they had 300 custody reports. This is from Sergeant Haskell. And over 200 pairs of plastic handles to take care of the people who were boisterous and out of control. I have copies of correspondence, which I'd be pleased to give to you or to the press, that basically it has been apparent that there's been a disagreement between the town and the owners who run and take care of the parking lot, which they will be right next to, even as to reimbursement and late pays. If I am going to do that, I would say to you that if you looked at the 3 stores that have liquor licenses, I believe that they are beer and wine licenses. They're not liquor licenses. I don't believe that probably in New England there is even an all-alcoholic beverage license. I did submit to you a memorandum. I will conclude with that time, but I would respectfully ask the chance to complete the presentation after you have heard from the others.
All right, you have a whole line behind you, sir. So
thank you.
in line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess if I were an attorney, I'd be the attorney of record for the defense. I think this is the best thing I've heard in a long time as far as Foxborough is concerned. I, too, like Attorney Mackey.
Please, folks, we got a long evening tonight. Just please keep the applause so we can keep, there's a lot of folks that want to speak.
I, too, have traveled to Brookline because of the fine offerings that they have there. I also go to the Needham store. I've been to other stores. I happen to think that this is one of the best-run retail operations I've ever seen anywhere in the country. And so I hope we won't be presiding over the death of common sense here and nitpicking to try to find some way to keep Trader Joe's and the full package out of Foxborough. I came out tonight, and I'll keep it short, just to say this. I'm asking each one of the members of the Board of Selectmen to vote to approve the transfer of this license to this fine operation. I think we can see here the kind of people that we're dealing with, and I think that's enough said. I hope my fellow townspeople will agree. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the record, that was Dennis Naughton. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Rosalind Liftman, 9 Independence Drive. I have no vested interest in Trader Joe's, nor do I know anyone who works for the organization. Neither am I an attorney. That being said, I am an enthusiastic supporter of the Trader Joe establishments. I'd like to tell you why. I was introduced to Trader Joe's many years ago when friends brought me back goodies from their frequent trips to California. When the first store opened in Massachusetts, I was delighted. I have shopped in their stores in Brookline, Cambridge, Hanover, Hyannis, Shrewsbury, Framingham, and most frequently in Needham. My most recent trip was to Needham in November, where I stocked up before the expected onslaught of winter. When I approached the cashier, he said one word, "Wow," because my shopping cart was overflowing. As the line behind me steadily grew, I commented that if Trader Joe's would come closer to my home, I wouldn't have to buy so much at one time. Asking where I lived, he told me that they would be coming to Foxborough soon. My reaction, too good to be true. And I want to tell you, I don't have that much time left to wait for Trader Joe's to come to Foxborough. To me, Trader Joe's is not a supermarket. It is a gourmet specialty food shop where everything is moderately priced. In every store, I have encountered very friendly and helpful personnel, all adults, whether they be cashiers, shelf stockers, or managers. All are clearly visible. I will not go into the issue of the alcohol license, except to say that according to the Foxborough Reporter of last Thursday, Trader Joe's clearly outlined their policy for training personnel, for overseeing liquor sales, for carding people, and being on hand on game days to help out should a problem arise. I believe them. Any organization with such a stellar reputation would have too much to lose otherwise. A few months ago, Big Y Supermarket, with its potential for much revenue and many jobs, decided not to locate in Foxborough. I realize that this decision was not due to any of our elected officials, but we now have another opportunity to realize revenue and jobs for Foxborough. I have learned that everything in life is not black or white. Sometimes one has to take a chance, a leap of faith. That time is now. I urge the selectmen to take this chance, this leap of faith, and allow Trader Joe's to obtain the available all-alcoholic license so that we may all reap the benefits of having this business in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Yes, my name is Irene Bagdoyan. I am 119 South Street, directly across the street, and I am an attorney, but I'm not here to speak as an attorney. I'm here to speak as a very excited and loyal customer of Trader Joe's. I think that I'm 51 years old. I'm an educated person, and I go to Trader Joe's about every other week up in Cambridge. And the reason I go there is quite clear. I go to buy cheese because their brie is excellent. They have several different kinds of brie, much less expensive than anything you find in Stop and Shop or Shaw's or frankly anywhere else around here. Their price on nuts, pistachios, and a variety of other kinds of things that I cook with are much less expensive. And to be frank, I also go and buy their wonderful Pinot Grigio, Pinot Noir, and whatever else their wonderful wine steward gives me advice to buy. There's always an educated person there to help me choose what is good for dinner. This is not a booze shop. And I think what the portrayal here, that this is a place where massive people go to buy booze, is such a misrepresentation that I have to stand up and say, no, you don't buy Bud there. You buy specialty Belgian ale there. You don't buy, the $2 chuck that was referred to is no longer $2, but it's actually pretty good wine, not expensive. And so for those of us who actually make the trip up to Cambridge or make the trip up to Framingham so that we have the opportunity not only to buy really good food at a decent price, we also get a chance to buy really nice, complimentary wine or ale at a very decent price. And so I think that's what we're looking for, those of us who really would love to see a Trader Joe's in town. It's not the kind of place you're going to buy a nip. I've never seen it. I've never seen it in any Trader Joe's, any place I've ever been, either here in Massachusetts or elsewhere. So I think that this fear factor is a little bit overstated. But thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, select people. My name's Joe Broderick. I'm the business manager at Carpenters Local 535 out of Norwood, Mass, and so the surrounding communities, which includes Foxborough. I'm a former resident of Foxborough. I don't live here right now, but I do represent 30-plus families that live in town who depend upon these living wage jobs to pay their mortgages, maintain their health insurance, and put food on their table. I'm here to speak about jobs for the 80 or so members from the Local 535 who found themselves without work. The history of Trader Joe's has been to enhance the communities that they come into. They provide jobs during the construction, as well as permanent jobs when they open. They will also provide much-needed tax income for the town. And they can be utilized for local nonprofits in their fundraising opportunities and efforts. Our challenge here is to see if a liquor license for Trader Joe's is a detriment or an enhancement to the town, as well as the Trader Joe's experience. Trader Joe's main selling point is to provide quality food products and the convenience of a wide variety of specialty items not always found in traditional markets. By adding the opportunity to pick up a bottle of wine or a specialty beer not found at your typical liquor store while you're at the market makes perfect sense. You often see, it's funny the way you guys were talking, and I really have not talked to these people at all, but you often see a recipe that will pair up with a certain beverage while you're at the market. You want to be able to have the convenience to do that. I believe that Chief O'Leary with the Trader Joe's team can and will come up with a comprehensive plan to meet the challenge of major events, Gillette Stadium and at Patriots Place. I do not see Trader Joe's wanting to be known as the main store for alcohol for these events. In fact, the designated tailgate parking areas are closer to the surrounding already licensed stores in the area. I believe a vote in favor of this license transfer is a vote in the confidence in the Foxborough Police. It's a vote in favor of tax revenue for the town, and it's a vote in favor of jobs for the community. I want to thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Next, sir.
Hi, Bill Varkas. I'm owner of Central Wine and Spirits, and I'm not here because I want to be. I'm here because business just isn't what it used to be. I'm not getting rich leaving. I'm leaving because I have to leave. There's 3 liquor licenses in downtown Foxborough in a mile radius, and ever since the 3rd one went in, we felt the crunch. The crunch trickled down to Epicure, who eventually went out of business because they went a little crazy themselves, but it was due to business as well. Evan come in, he bought the Epicure's license, he opened up, it's a nice store. So now it's a three-tier pie downtown, and there's just not enough money there. As this gentleman over here mentioned, the Route 1 corridor, I mean, I got 3 full licenses in a mile radius. If you get down into Mansfield, he mentioned other towns, there's 4 more licenses right on that same 140. Rum Runner, Corks, Wines and More. The money's just not there anymore, and that's the reason we're leaving. I've been here for 15 years. I don't want to. I like Foxborough. I love Foxborough. I know more about Foxborough than I know my own hometown. So I just think hooking up with Trader Joe's was a great thing. It's for the win-win for the businesses downtown, and I think it's a win-win for the town of Foxborough. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next.
Hi, Daniel Flynn, 400 Foxborough Boulevard. I'm pro-development, as you all know, and pro-jobs, and I think it would be awful not to consider such a fine establishment and be afraid that we in Foxborough aren't adult enough to handle another liquor store at Patriot Place. It doesn't make any sense. And the ones that aren't, the police will deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Mr. Chairman, my name's Neil Conley. I don't live in the town of Foxborough, but I'm elected official for my union, Ironworkers Local 7, and I appreciate just one quick minute. Competition is very competitive. We got a lot of buildings where I live that have folded up. Circuit City down there in Braintree, they put a Dave & Buster's in there. This food store right here now, they want to come up, bring more real estate taxes to your town. They want to create more jobs for the residents, and I hope they look at the residents of Foxborough to be hired, and I hope they pay higher than minimum wage. But also, they didn't even ask for a TIF for this project to be built or come to your town. I asked the town, look at it. You can look at all the liquor licenses. You go to any bar now. If you don't have a big screen in your bar room, you'll be out of business shortly. But I think that's a good customer for your town, and I'm not telling you how to run your town, how you do it, but I think you'd be very happy with them here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, let me interrupt a minute.
Yes, please.
Could we just ask if anybody else is going to come in line, get in line now, so we can continue business and close the public hearing after? I recognize everybody in line now, but if anybody else, because we will have to kind of move it along.
And Attorney Mackey, if you want to go to the back of the line, we'll give you just another few minutes as well. Go ahead, sir, please.
Mr. Chairman, my name's Dave Sargo. I'm the business manager for the Laborers Union out of Norwood. Cover this area and the surrounding communities. And we represent probably 26, 27 members of your community. Can't say much else that's been said other than the gentleman from Norwood, he brought up a very valid point, is the public need. And the public need is the need for jobs. And Trader Joe's, a vote for the license for Trader Joe's is a vote to allow them to create jobs for the community. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I would just ask if people have already made the comments you're going to make, please don't just make them over and over again.
I hadn't planned to.
So thank you very much, everybody.
You. My name is Pamela Sheward. I live at 28 Chestnut Street in Foxborough. My concern is As a consumer, I like high-quality food. Trader Joe's does offer that. The other thing that I wanted to say is I'm really tired of seeing empty storefronts. And this one's been empty for 2 years. I think it would be really nice to have something of high quality in there, and I do think they know how to control how to sell their alcohol. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Mark Rivard, 166 Central Street. I just want to say that I also think it would be a shame if we let Trader Joe's not come into Foxborough. I think they're a very reputable business, and this is an existing liquor license. We're not adding a new one to the town. We already have it, so I think if a firm is going to get it, it should be Trader Joe's.
Thanks. You. Next.
How you doing? Rob Dorney from 7 Kingfield Place, Foxborough. I'm a father, 2 daughters, 4 and 6, and you know, we've shopping at Trader Joe's for a long time. I think it's an amazing opportunity for us, for the town, and I just can't see how it's going to bring any more problems we already have. And I just wanted to say my last piece. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
I'm Steve Morgan, 17 Fuller Road. I'm a father of 2 daughters also, but mine are teenagers and they're driving. And recently at a driver's ed class, the instructor told me about he's concerned at the Gillette area and the amount of alcohol-related incidents. I just don't think we need more alcohol up in that area, that they're making it a statement now for these kids. I want us to say no. I want Trader Joe's. There is a need for the groceries, not for the alcohol in that area, to keep our kids safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next.
I'm Mike Kaminsky, resident of Foxborough for 18 years, and I live at 2 Farwell Street. I am here to tell you that Trader Joe's is one of the best neighbors that Foxborough will ever have, and they are committed to being a neighborhood store. They run top-notch stores and have qualified people running around in Hawaiian shirts, and they know how to serve the customer. This state, it was mentioned earlier about the referendum. The state has, I believe the state has recently changed the laws which allow this company to come into town and take a license and transfer it. Okay, that's the compromise the state legislature made so that business and competition can thrive throughout the Commonwealth. Trader Joe's has not sold one item in this town yet they are being land-basted for the unruly people that might be at the stadium. We know there are issues there, but those issues are the responsibility of Trader Joe's, the other businesses there, and our police department. So let them do their jobs and let Trader Joe's come into this town. Let's not forget, recently a grocery chain pulled out of this town. It's not that long ago, there was no food stores of a first-class nature along Route 140 in this town. And they weren't even in Mansfield. But now we have a first-class operation that wants to come to this town, and they deserve to run a successful store that they've done so across the nation. In closing, I'd like to urge the Board of Selectmen to allow the transfer of this license and allow Trader Joe's to operate a growing business in our town by selling all their products, and let Trader Joe's make a great store and be a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Sean McCarthy. I'm 4 Abbey Lane. I'm a 48-year resident of Foxborough. And I would like to welcome Trader Joe's to our community. They would be a welcome asset. I do, however, have some concerns over the liquor license at this location. The first item is a question. Does Trader Joe's sell alcohol anywhere else where you can walk out the front door and sit in your car and drink it? This is an extremely important factor that I'm sure that their investors and insurance company may not be aware of. I am sure Trader Joe's business plan does not show patrons then drink in the parking lot and drive home. Would the town be happy with a Stop and Shop selling liquor and then letting people gather to drink it in the parking lot before or after a stadium event? Secondly, when you get the college and high school students at NCAA events and concerts, the risk of on-site supply is extremely dangerous when people of age have had a few drinks and lapses of judgment become common. Buying from minors to drink on site will be beyond what Foxborough is already seeing. Finally, how does Foxborough want to be perceived? Liquor licenses are for the community, issued by the town. Is it the intent to sell to people who are drinking visitors and then hit the road? If we want to be reactive, then we'll charge drunk fees, clean up wreckage, put public safety and people of all towns at risk with issuing these types of licenses. If we want to be proactive, we welcome Trader Joe's, but without a liquor license.
Thank you very much. Next.
Mark Stopa, 118 Chestnut Street. Just 3 items. First, for decades, we were begging for the development of the Route 1 corridor. We were the last. We had Desolation Boulevard. Now that we have positive growth on Route 1, why in God's name would we now want to stand in the way of further growth of the business on Route 1? Makes no sense to me. Foxborough is very quickly getting the reputation for being anti-business. The market will determine whether or not this store will make it or not. Just like Circuit City, whether they were going to make it or not was determined by the market. We're not adding another license to town, we're moving it. For those that would like to oppose it by throwing statistics, any of us that have been around business for any length of time know several truths. One, there are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. Lastly, you're helping 2 businesses here. You're helping the gentleman who needs to sell his license to be able to move on. He couldn't make it because of the market conditions of where he is. That's unfortunate. He was a good business person for many, many years. You're helping him by affording him the opportunity to sell his license to somebody who's interested in buying it. That's business. You're also offering the opportunity for a new business to come to town, offer jobs, the ability for contractors to come in and make money. It'll be up to them to run the business the right way. If they don't run it the right way, they'll be gone. If they are sloppy in the way they do business, the chief of police will make sure that they're gone or that they're severely limited in what they're able to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Mike Stanton, Shepherd Street. I really want to speak to your fiduciary role as stewards of these licenses. These are the town's licenses. These people are the licensees. And although we all understand Mr. Vaca's economic problems, all you're going to do is put another one of your licensees under more financial stress by diluting his business further. They've been out there for years. Things are finally getting better. So what's the first thing you're going to do? Dilute his business? And I think you really have to think about what your standards are and should be, and what your fiduciary responsibility is, and what your vested interest is for all your licensees. And that's the way I see it. It's look, everybody would love to have this new operator up there, but I think by bringing, putting a full package store in the parking lot, if everything's gone on, it's not good. But again, you have an obligation and an interest in all the licenses that you have in this town, and I think you should think long and hard before you transfer a license into an area that has no lack of service. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Frank Kinahan, 32 Meadowview Road. First of all, let me just start by saying I would welcome Trader Joe's to the Patriot Place. And I think it would be great for our community and for many other local residents. However, I do object to the full liquor license transfer from the center of town to Patriot Place. With all the alcohol-related issues in the past and present, as reported in local newspapers. Trader Joe's is a billion-dollar chain. It operates many stores in Massachusetts and throughout the country without selling alcohol. If Trader Joe's has done the homework in the area, and I'm sure they have, they are aware of the alcohol-related problems that exist at Patriot Place. As a responsible and successful company, that they should be willing to come to Foxborough without alcohol. If they do that, everyone wins. Foxborough has a Trader Joe's supermarket, the craft organization has a rental, and we don't end up overstacking licenses on one side of town. and the Giants step forward saying no to this transfer for more alcohol onto Route 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Mark Lombardo. I am actually a resident of neighboring Mansfield and do work for a variety of businesses in Foxborough. I have no objection to Trader Joe's coming, but I find it just madness that you folks would consider putting a full retail alcohol liquor license in the parking lot of Gillette Stadium. The problems that are up there, and I read through the Sun Chronicle day after day, week after week, and even though I live in Mansfield, I see the reports and so forth. It's a constant drumbeat of problems. I have young teenage daughters. We're up there all the time. I've witnessed the problems myself. There are issues at every bar and restaurant up there already, and I can't imagine something like the NCAA lacrosse tournament that's coming this Memorial Day weekend for 3 days, where alcohol is not allowed inside the stadium because of NCAA rules. And yet, a supermarket, even though they might be nice wines and beers, you're giving them a full alcohol license in the parking lot with all of the problems that we have up there on a routine basis, forget event days, doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Mike Small. I live on Idlewild Street, and I'm a partner at Seasonal Specialty Stores, which I guess is one of the only businesses on Route 1 that doesn't need alcohol. I'm not anti-business, I'm not anti-Trader Joe's, but I have to say, you know, in my opinion, enough is enough with the whole liquor thing in the economic development area. Would I love to sell beer and wine? Why not? But is there a need for it within the community? I don't believe so on Route 1. And at some point, from a standpoint of the economic development area, I think we need to draw a line in the sand. I don't know of anywhere outside the city of Boston that you will find a more concentrated area serving or selling alcohol than between Pine Street and North Street in Foxborough. If I have it right, I could believe you can get, there are 20 different places there serving alcohol just in that small area. I am definitely all for business development in Route 1. I'm all for businesses filling Patriot Place to capacity, but not if every new business that wants to move into Patriot Place requires a liquor license. Trader Joe's is not in the liquor business that I'm aware of. I believe they have 15 stores in Massachusetts out of 18 that do not sell alcohol. Alcohol is not a key to their success, and I don't understand why there seems to be a gun pointed at our head that they'll only come in if we offer them the alcohol license. I think there's a bad precedent has been set, and that every business looking to open a Patriot Place wants a liquor license, and I just don't think it's that necessary. Thank you for your time.
Next.
I'm Tom Folan from Sherrill Drive. I do have a problem with Trader Joe's. I can never seem to find a parking space at the Needham store, you know? It's a great store, but I think with all the problems at Patriot Place, again, I don't think it should be issued the license, the fights, the police assaults, all the problems up there. I think it will just add to the problems in the area.
Thank you very much. Yep. Next, Jim.
I was going to say I was going to be the popular speaker here because I thought I was last, but now there's more behind
I'm
me.
coming in behind you, I know. We're trying to be respectful to everybody.
First of all, I'd like to say that I am a person here, like everybody else, that totally supports Trader Joe's coming into this community. I look at Trader Joe's as an operation that's very classy, very professional, and turned around and has made a very good presentation tonight. The one thing I have a big concern about is the full alcohol, which really I don't think truly was addressed. The other thing I would like to point out is 14 out of the 17 stores in Massachusetts do not serve alcohol. And they're very, very successful stores. My family shops in Hyannis, no alcohol. As a matter of fact, I've had a number of people say to me, my God, I didn't even know they sold alcohol. I would like to bring up some points here, if you please indulge me. I may not be considered one of the big operators in the business, but I have worked very hard to operate an honest, responsible, and well-trained liquor store. After 40 years in the business, it would be impossible for me to stand here and tell you the contributions that I've made to Foxborough. And I don't think it's an issue that really and truly should be considered when you're looking for a liquor license. What is taking place on Route 1 corridor is becoming an alcoholic nightmare. Alcohol-related problems continue to escalate on Route 1 and Patriots Place, and our police and safety personnel are stretched to the limit. What is really frustrating for me is that when I speak out on an issue of concern, someone on the other side of the issue always comments, well, that's competition speaking, so let's disregard it. He's blowing things out of proportion, exaggerating, trying to be self-serving. So really, allow me a couple of minutes to let's talk about the real issues here. We are a town that is breaking records for arrest and protective custodies. In 2011, we had close to 1,800 arrest and protective custodies, and the majority came from the Gillette Stadium, Patriots Place. Quote from the chief, "The events at Gillette Stadium accounted for more than half of 1,587 arrest and protective custodies made by the Foxborough police officers in 2009. Police Chief O'Leary wrote in this 2009 annual report of the 894 custodies stemming from stadium events, 228 were criminal offenses, 666 were due to severe alcohol impairment. The chief said almost every stadium event, custody has its genesis in the abuse of alcohol." How bad is it? Let's talk about that. We have even filed to see if we can issue $200 fines to help fray the cost of the protective custodies. The only town in Massachusetts to attempt this. Why? Because these arrest and protective custodies have been increasing every year. And it's not just stadium events, it's an every week occurrence. Chief O'Leary said he expects police will again need to take hundreds of people into protective custody and make some arrests. He said last year, festivals, the Country and Western Festival, required 600 medical responses and 79 medical transports. Police took in 336 into custody, many of them drunken revelers. I'd just like to repeat, 600 medical responses and 79 medical transports. We are a town that is breaking records for OUIs, operating under the influence. In 2011, we broke the town record with over 80 OUIs, up 60% from the previous year. And keep in mind how many potential OUIs were out there that didn't get caught. You do realize what those numbers represent. Danger for both young and old if you are on those roads. I have never seen so many police cruisers at night on Route 1 pulling cars over. Recently, 2 people, and this comes out of the police log, were arrested outside a bar at Patriots Place who were going to drive home. They registered, taken into custody, and registered a staggering blood alcohol reading of 248 and 272. Thank God for the police department. We are a town that is battling a huge increase in underage drinking. We spend a lot of money getting the message out to our young people about the dangers of drinking, binge drinking, and the consequences that go with it, especially if they get behind the wheel. Fake IDs produced overseas and bought online are flooding the market. Detecting and confiscating fake IDs has become a weekly occurrence. And the entire Route 1 corridor, including Patriots Place, is getting more of their share of that battle. During a 3-day event at the lacrosse championships a couple of years ago, our store alone detected and confiscated 30 fake IDs. We are a town that shut down Halloween because of our concerns of heavy traffic mixed with the possibilities of intoxicated drivers coming from Gillette Stadium. And it was the right decision to make. Safety must always come first. The Route 1 corridor is becoming a tough neighborhood. And trust me, I hate to say that because my family's been out there since 1947, but it is now a tough neighborhood. The records in the police logs don't lie. A gentleman a little earlier here said, statistics, throw them out the window. You can't throw these statistics out the window. It's just time that we all face the reality of the issue. There is a public safety problem at Patriots Place. We all know it. Nobody wants to hear it. And God forbid if Jim Civilinsky says it. Well, that's competition. Disregard it. We have irrefutable proof. The records stand. Knowing that, how do we justify putting a full liquor license into this area, especially Patriots Place? And I would like to comment. I am the biggest supporter of Trader Joe's, but not with alcohol. And one of the issues that I want to bring up, and I think this is very, very important, this is not an issue here tonight from the coalition that's speaking and from myself. Not an issue about Trader Joe's. This is an issue about a controlled substance. It's called alcohol. And the issue is, where do we as responsible people situate and place this alcohol? I'm going to say just one more thing. I guess I'm from the old school. You earn the right and the privilege to have a license. And Patriots Place has not done this. If this passes, you'll be rewarding a full liquor license to a known alcohol problem area. And then you're also punishing other retailers at the same time. Saturation of liquor stores in one area is another issue in itself. If we had anything close to the alcohol-related problems in our parking lots that exist in Patriots Place, we would be shut down. And I want to re-emphasize again, Trader Joe's should be in Patriots Place. Trader Joe's should be selling some of the finest foods that people or specific people like. But Trader Joe's should not be in that parking lot with everything that we know, all the records that are there. And what's really and truly frustrating, that all these records that we are quoting here tonight, protective custodies, drunks, arrests, knife fights, it's getting worse every single solitary year. 08, 09, 010, 11, 012. I want to emphasize to everybody sitting here, I will be the first one to say, as along with everybody, I love Trader Joe's, but not with alcohol. And for any organization to say that they can't make it without alcohol, what does that say of the other 15 stores they're operating successfully? That's the part I don't understand. And what really upsets me is from the Mississippi on, they do not have any spirits. What's all of a sudden changed? Especially if you do your homework, they're going to turn around and come in with spirits in the middle of what is the biggest alcoholic mess that Foxborough has experienced for years. And I can read it tomorrow. Jim Civilinsky, the competitor, is complaining. Jim Civilinsky, the guy that loves Foxborough, that's been here from a family of 1947, says this is a mistake. Trader Joe's, yes. Alcohol to them in that location, absolutely not. We can't be that irresponsible. I'm going to close, and I apologize for taking too much time. I just want to say, putting a full liquor license in any entity wanting to come into Patriots Place parking lot is like throwing gasoline on a fire that we will never put out. And I thank you very much for your time, and I certainly hope that you'll vote no on this. There's too much at stake here.
Thank you, Jim. We're going to just take these three and those, that's it, all right? And we're going to give them a chance to respond. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name's John McGrade. I'm currently the labor steward on your library project, and I'm here to support Trader Joe's and the jobs that they offer. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. It's probably fitting that I'm the last to speak. My name is Brian Early, and I'm the general manager.
Sorry, would you say your name again, please?
Brian Early, the general manager of Patriot Place. I think it's important that the board understands the role that Patriot Place has had in terms of working with the police, Chief O'Leary, District Attorney Morrissey's office, as really a leader in protecting the area of Patriot Place, the guests that come to Patriot Place. Ultimately, that falls on me and my responsibility, working with all tenants, restaurants or otherwise, of Patriot Place. And there have been a lot of numbers been thrown around here relative to Patriot Place, stadium events, otherwise. But when we speak specifically about Patriot Place, we need to go back and understand that in 2007, it was a commission study by the town that realized that they would expect nearly 1,100 calls a year, based on what they found in the marketplace, police calls to come to Patriot Place for various reasons. They cited areas like Rentham Outlets, which has over 700 police calls in a year. Or Emerald Square Mall, over 1,400 police calls. In 2011, Patriot Place had just 274 calls to the police for incidents at Patriot Place specifically. That same study also predicted 350 medical calls to Patriot Place. The actual number in 2011, including calls to the medical office and urgent care center and health care center at Patriot Place, numbered only 227. I feel very strongly, and I take it very personally, that I am the steward of safety and controls at Patriot Place, and we do it very well. And there is no other statistic that can be proven that we do it otherwise than the support we have from the town of Foxborough, the chief of police, and the district attorney's office. And that will not change going forward as long as I am the general manager of Patriot Place. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Last comment, sir.
Yes, hi. Tim Melvin, 2 Standish Ave.
Could you say your name again, please?
Tim Melvin, 2 Standish Ave. I think this is a fantastic opportunity. I'm looking forward to the whole Trader Joe's, not just Trader Joe's, but the whole experience. I'm looking for the convenience. Someone is rattling off all these statistics. It shows the police department's doing a fantastic job in this whole realm of the alcohol happening out there. So I'm really supportive of this, and my wife's supportive, and I have 3 little kids. And for me to go to multiple stores and things along those lines, it's tough. And as for the issues with alcohol, it's specialty beer. It's specialty wine. It's not Bud. It's not Michelob's. It's people are looking for the Trader Joe's experience, and that's what I'm really excited about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. You wanted to respond to some things, so I'll give you a few moments to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to say that anytime an attorney opens his comments about his petition by saying, "I did not mean to deceive you," to me, that calls into question some of the content of that petition. And frankly, I think it's unfair to the applicant and disrespectful to the board to try to recycle a petition that applied to something that is not at all like Trader Joe's, that is not backed by Trader Joe's, that's not related in any way to Trader Joe's. Secondly, I'd like to comment that when Trader Joe's does sell spirits, they never sell nips or airline bottles, and they never sell half pints. They never sell the type of 1.5-liter vodka that you might find at other stores on Route 1. They sell specialty, high-end spirits when they do sell spirits. And the reason we are applying for an all-alcohol license is twofold. One is that due to the contract and the rental opportunity and the build-out at Patriot Place, there was only one license available for sale in town. And that's the license we have under agreement, and that's the license that Mr. Varkas currently holds. Trader Joe's holds several hundred all-alcohol licenses, and it is part of their future business concept to sell spirits. We will not open with a wide variety of spirits, but at some point, we would like to have that option. And when and if we do sell them, they will be along the lines of high-end Scotch tastings, single malt Scotch, unique tequilas, just exactly in the unique food pairing, food complementing specialty brands that we have for beer and for wine. One gentleman commented that a founder of Trader Joe's was quoted as saying this business is built on wine. We have testified that food sales are 80%. That is indisputably true across Massachusetts and the other stores. And Chris McGuire, who has worked at Trader Joe's for over 20 years, informs me that the person who made that statement made it approximately 1960, during the beginning of Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's may have started with wine. Trader Joe's has a significant wine business. It is part and parcel of the experience and the opportunities, but it doesn't, we don't build a business today on wine, and we don't depend on alcohol sales in volume to fund the business. Some concern was expressed about issues on game days. We have met with the chief. We have outlined our program. He seemed comfortable with it. He had some suggestions that we adopted. We had some plans that we tweaked. We feel we have a large opportunity to exercise the same control we do every day on game days. And frankly, I believe someone was implying that the issue would be underage people or intoxicated people. One of the most significant things we worry about on game day, as we do at any store with high volume, is shoplifting. One of the reasons we have extra people and extra vigilance is to prevent that. You know, we don't see serving intoxicated people or intoxicated people requesting alcohol as the single biggest issue. We're prepared for it. Dave has been in between Boston College and Fenway Park on the firing line of young people trying to buy liquor, and has stopped many hundreds of them and has never had any problem, and had an excellent relationship with law enforcement. Someone implied that there's a danger to kids, or there's a danger from us being located so close to the parking lot. Well, I'll tell you, the danger to kids from purchasing a warm bottle of Chimay Premier Red Label for $11, I would say, is fairly limited. You know, on my way down here, I got a call on my cell phone, and as I understand that you're not allowed to talk while you're driving anymore, I pulled in to Route 1 Liquors. And there on the front of the door was an ad that said 30-pack of Rolling Rock for $17.99. Now, my rough calculation says that's about 60 cents a beer. Trader Joe's beers cost $7 for the Granny Smith cider, $10 for the Duvel Belgian Ale, $10 for the Lindemans Framboise. I mean, some of these beers are so specialized I can barely pronounce them. But the idea here is we sell specialized beer that complements food. And I don't think some of our critics heard when I said, we don't sell this beer cold. I mean, it is very unlikely that someone is going to buy 6 $10 Chimay Belgian red ales and then drive home and refrigerate them and then bring them back to the tailgate. I mean, the model does not support the type of alcohol consumption in volume that people have expressed fears about. I mean, it is absolutely astonishing to me that the man who is selling 60-cent cans of beer in 30 packs is lecturing Trader Joe's about responsible consumption. I mean, economic competition notwithstanding, we don't sell the same kind of large-scale, cheap party tailgate beer that Route 1 Liquors does just across the way. And I understand the way the parking lot system works is you are no longer allowed to transport from segment to segment with your supplies. I think Mr. Early might be able to speak more directly to this, but you can't stock up at Trader Joe's and transport your beers to other tailgates in other areas, because there's security delineating the various areas. You can go
to Route 1 Liquors and buy a 30-pack for under 20 bucks and take it anywhere you want. In fact, you can take it 10 feet behind the building to a tailgate area where they are essentially fueling the activities. Trader Joe's doesn't do that. Trader Joe's can't do that. Trader Joe's won't do that. Alcohol issues are a question of supply and demand. Supply and demand is influenced by price and availability. And, unless I miss my guess, the huge volume of cans of beer that are emanating from Route 1 Liquors are chilled because people want to drink them in quantity and right away. That doesn't happen at Trader Joe's. That won't happen at Trader Joe's. We'd be glad to answer any further questions.
All right. Is that it? Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Motion to close the public hearing.
There's a motion, there's a second. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Larry, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Well, out of all the information I've gotten tonight, I guess if we open the Foxborough store, nobody's going to drive to Cambridge anymore. So, but I will tell you, sometimes people speak here, and they must think that we're the most uneducated people in the world up here sitting here, because we've got an attorney who's brought us a petition signed last spring or whenever against another entity, and I got more phone calls in this petition upset that their names were on it, considering that it was not, they were very upset it was against Trader Joe's. So there's been a lot of communication on this petition, which I find really insubmissible to me at all, in all regards. I'll never buy you a beer at $10 a beer. And then I think Phil also made 23 establishments. They're not liquor stores. There's 23 liquor establishments. There's only 3 liquor stores that I know of on Route 1 from Walpole. There's a beer and wine at the Sitco. Of course, there's Jim's Place, and I think the next one's up off of 152. So yeah, and that's not even a country store. It's a new place. I forget what it is. But so there's 3. There's not 23. So a lot of this stuff we're getting here, it's very misleading to a lot of people out there. I just want to make some clarification here. You know, when you talk about arrests and PCs and the misinterpretation that really has nothing to do, in my mind, with what's going to be here and what's being actively done at a stadium event. There's no comparison. The one thing I will say, though, I do find it disturbing that it would be a full alcohol license, and I wonder why. And I don't know, is he still allowed to ask? Can I direct a question to him, Larry, that we close the public meeting?
Yes.
If Trader Joe's, and believe me, I want you to come to town too, but if you have 2 stores in the Commonwealth that sell beer and wine, a full license, alcohol license, I think that's what irks the people in the public right now. I don't think it's the beer and wine, the specialty part of it. Just so, you know, what I'm hearing in the center of town and around people. So, and that's where I'll leave it for now, Larry.
All right, Linda, I'll turn the podium to you.
So Chris had mentioned that there was no cold beer to be sold at this time. So it sounded to me, no disrespect to you, Phil, but what do you mean at this time? Do you think that's a possibility that you'd like to have chilled beers and wines and spirits and things, or?
I think as long as I have been with Trader Joe's on the East Coast, we've never sold cold beer, nor do we have any intention to change that plan at this time. Certainly, don't want to rule it in or rule it out either way. That's been our position up until this time, and we don't see that changing at all at any point in the future.
I still have that problem with the all alcohol too. I'm not, you know, I'm sure that you'll explain a little bit more about that because, you know, I think that there is another license probably available for beer and wine instead of going for this full alcohol. But, you know, we'll get through that. So you guys come in, do you have like little followers, you know, like usually if there's, you know, Walmart, maybe there's a McDonald's that follows in. Is there, you know, do you have little neighbors that follow you to, that like to be neighbors of yours while you come into town, or?
Brant might be a little bit better able to answer that question, but not that I'm aware of, no.
No? Okay, just kind of thought there'd be somebody that
Maybe
would.
a Starbucks here.
Okay. So you folks close up at 9, period, end of sentence. And what time would you open?
We typically open at 8 a.m.
And the alcohol would begin to be sold when?
Based on the jurisdiction or the local, we'll sell, you know, as much as for the period that we can, with the exception of Sundays, alcohol sales begin at noon.
Okay. I think that's all I have for now until we can get settled with this all alcohol. Would you begin to do that right away? Do you
No,
believe?
and it might help clarify matters too if I explain a little bit about our spirit section. That might help clear things up because, again, I'm under the impression that people have these visions of walking into Trader Joe's and then there's a few buckets of flowers and a huge Smirnoff display or something. That's not the case at all. Typically, the spirits that we sell as a company is a very, very minimal part of our business. A tiny fraction of our business. We believe that, you know, the full Trader Joe's experience does include food and beverages, and within the beverages, certainly wine and beer and spirits where we can do it. Every store in California, for example, sells food, wine, beer, and spirits. According to our business plan on the East Coast, it's something that we haven't chosen to pursue up until this time, but as we expand and as our business grows, we certainly get customers requesting it quite often, especially those that are familiar with us from California, know the specialty items that we sell. As Andrew said, it's not, you know, jugs of cheap vodka or nip bottles or flasks. We don't do any of that. It's typically higher quality, you know, scotches and gins. And it's a very small section. I think, I haven't worked in California for a long time, but I would say probably at the current point in time, you're talking between maybe 8 and 12 feet at the most linear feet of a spirit section, a tiny section of the store. We don't do the big brands. We don't do the cheap brands. There's not the big Myers rum with the beach balls hanging from the ceiling. You know, it's just Trader Joe's. It's part of our product lineup, and it's something that we believe in. And we also believe that our customers have the choice. They can choose to not buy spirits or wine or beer if they want to. They have the choice. At this point, we have no spirits at all. I've never worked in a store in Massachusetts that sold it. But again, we certainly would like to keep that option open as we move forward.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Lorraine?
Thank you for your presentation. It was really great. From day one, when we first caught wind of you coming, unanimous reaction from everyone. Bring Trader Joe's in. Bring them in. People have gotten more excited about it recently, obviously, but there's no doubt in my mind that certainly this niche will be visited on a regular basis, this type of business. A couple of questions I have. Do you have any other East Coast stores that are all alcohol?
Nothing with spirit, even with spirits.
Right.
Nothing on the East Coast at this point. Brookline has a full license, but we don't sell it at that store at this point.
So you just sell beer and wine?
Yeah.
Okay. On the diagram for the store, with my magnifying glass, I was able to see that there are 4 shelves here, 4 displays labeled wine. There's no beer section listed.
The beer section will probably be along the wall, just adjacent to that.
So where would the alcohol be? The spirits?
Yeah, in the same area. Typically, again, I'm referring to California stores, and that's my best working knowledge, but typically we put the spirits right at or as close to the captain's station, the manager's station as possible. So, in fact, sometimes I think they even abut the manager's station.
And you always have them by the front of the store like that?
Well, the manager's station is on the, yeah, but up towards the front, but away from the door, obviously.
Okay.
And again, it's situational store by store.
Okay, I think really, my concern is the all alcohol license. And again, I think I'd like to hear more about what could we do about that. Because certainly we want Trader Joe's to come. I think the track record of all of your successes all over the state without liquor licenses, to me, indicates you could be sustained without a liquor license in Foxborough. I have no doubt about that. I am concerned about the all alcohol piece of it. I'm also concerned, I spoke to Chief O'Leary, and he indicated he had met with you and discussed all of the steps that you have outlined in your presentation that would be in place. He was not aware that this would be all alcohol. So again, I just think that we do have a concentration of liquor licenses in one location. I'd just like to hear from other members of the board what you think about the all alcohol piece of it, and the location too.
Anything else, Lorraine?
No, thanks.
Okay, Jim?
Thank you. When the announcement first came out that Trader Joe's was coming, I think the Herald had emailed and asked and this is during another heated topic that was going on during December and January. And I emailed him back that I was very happy for Trader Joe's to come. I know Trader Joe's very well. A storefront went empty. The whole area is designed for that type of retail. So it would be a perfect fit, and it would create the jobs, and it would give some breadth to an area that could use it during the day. And going on the blogs and hearing what people have said, I think unanimously across the board, people were excited to have Trader Joe's come. You look at the Patriots Place, and we have struggled. There's two sides that can paint it any way that they want, but we have struggled with alcohol in that area. There's 12 liquor licenses that went into restaurants and bars during the mitigation process for the liquor license, and that was set. There was a 13th one that came in that, and a gentleman had stated, the town do own the liquor licenses, and the town gave up one for Toby Keith's to come in. So I think the town is looking to bring more business and make that area as successful as we can. A couple things that you noted, and I guess this is to Attorney Upton, well, actually to the general manager first. I was under the impression that there are no stores in the Northeast, including Brookline, that has an all liquor license, all three, beer, wine, and liquor. Are you saying that they do have that but choose not to serve alcohol?
Brookline, I believe.
I mean Brookline?
Yeah, and Brandon.
Is that correct? So they have the license. I was under the impression if that license is issued, you must serve liquor, or that is in violation of the state.
I'll ask our special counsel that question. Right. Okay, Jim?
When I first got contacted by you about this case, I called the ABCC counsel, and it's the ABCC's opinion that if you have an all-alcoholic license, you have to sell all alcohol.
You can't underutilize the license.
That's their opinion. And if you look in the law, I think Andrew's a pretty experienced lawyer too. You can't find it anywhere. It's intuitive. There's a quota for beer and wine. There's a quota for all alcohol, and the commission's position is if you have an all-alcoholic license, you have to use it. Worst case scenario, if everyone in town with an all-alcoholic license decided to sell only beer and wine, you couldn't get alcohol anywhere. So you couldn't get spirits anywhere. So that's the theory behind it, and that's certainly the ABCC's position. You you can grant this license, you have broad discretion on how you can grant the license, and it's up to you to enforce that provision whether you want to or not.
Okay. Attorney Upton, you had mentioned that there's only one license available right now. Per definition, I don't even think that license is available because the town doesn't have jurisdiction over it. It's privately owned and it's running. So you would purchase that license from an existing owner, correct?
Yes, we would purchase from Mr. Marcus at Central Line.
Okay. There is, my concern is having an all alcohol license at Patriots Place in that environment, because I've seen the struggle that the board has had and the police have had, and it just goes on and on. But I do want to see success, and I do want to see Trader Joe's in there. There is one license that is available in town. You said there wasn't, but there is another one. It's for beer and wine. And if that was available and you could work something out, would that be an option for you? Since I don't think in the Northeast you have liquor, it would certainly satisfy a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing tonight, and that person is willing to work. And in a matter of fact, I think they've already had negotiations and discussions with Trader Joe's before the Patriots, before the decision to go for the all alcohol. I'm bringing that up now because if we can work something out that there's another option that gets you what you need, since you don't have the full alcohol in other stores and you don't utilize it, it gets the town some comfort level that we're not putting in something that may not be appropriate to a lot of people. Is that something that you would consider? So it's a win for you, it's a win for the town, and we can move on?
Well, at this time, we're certainly willing to discuss almost any concept, but it's our position that our current and proposed business model calls for the option to have spirits at some point. You know, what we might prefer to see as a hypothetical outcome of this would be to be granted the all-alcohol license here tonight, perhaps with some conditions on the sale of spirits that satisfies the board. I mean, for us to go back and negotiate with another seller and go through the process to get here again, you know, creates tremendous costs and timing issue and build-out issue and leasing issues. Not to mention the fact that if I were to negotiate with the seller of a beer and wine license or any license after tonight, you may have reduced my leverage not to do so.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I understand that. And before I said that, I had discussions with that person, and that person, it was no secret. She's gone to town hall. She said it's available. She went to you guys. She said it's available. So I'm not bringing out any secrets, but it would make me a lot more comfortable knowing that there was not a full package store down in the middle of the parking lot. And that's what it comes down to for me right now.
Right, and we certainly understand that, and we understand the concerns of the board. And, you know, Trader Joe's reputation and license is at stake when they're selling alcohol as well. No one's more aware than we are of the risks of selling any alcohol, and that's why we take such care to do it. I think if the board were interested in considering some conditions on the all-alcohol license that gave you comfort about the present or future sale of spirits, you know, we'd certainly be amenable to that.
Do you have anything else?
I'm all set, thank you.
So let me make a few comments, then I'll go to you. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Route 1 liquor store. You have been a good community person for a long time. I know personally that when organizations in town are trying to raise money, you've been a supporter of them, and we appreciate your support in town. My wife and I very seldom drink, but when we have purchased for parties, we've gone to the store and been treated very well there, and I just want to commend you for being a good citizen. And I know that the discretionary fund and many other charitable events have benefited from your help throughout the years. That said, though, I think that as people indicated, there's a difference in my mind between problems at game day and problems any other time. And at game day, most people that I know that go there bring their own liquor with them. They bring their own beer. And if they are going to stock up, there are parking lots right by you, and they can stop at the gas station, they can stop at the country store, and they can do that. Where you seem to be located, that's the whole retail side. And the parking for the football games seem to be kind of way on the other side. So it would be difficult for people to, in my mind, use your shop as a way to stock up because they've run out or whatever. Many a time on a Sunday, as they come through downtown or they come through 140, next to the Dairy Queen is a store where they can stop, and I've seen them go in and buy alcohol there. There is no doubt that we have an alcohol problem in the state of Massachusetts and in the country. We have lots of irresponsible people, both young and old. Boston was named the drunkest city in America recently. So I don't think Foxborough is unique in its issues. And I would hate to see us punish a business that has a business model where beer and wine is part of what you do. And obviously, as Mark indicated, at $10 a bottle, it's an interesting business model, but apparently it works for you. So I want to see Trader Joe's come in. I want to see it be successful. I like the idea that you will give some favoritism to Foxborough residents. We want to see as many Foxborough people working as possible. And in many cases in the retail business, it's our sons and daughters that are working there part-time, or in some cases, our college students that are working there part-time. So that's important to us. It's also important that we have a safe delivery of the product. And you've got an excellent track record in the state of Massachusetts for how you do things. You've talked to the chief, et cetera. So from that standpoint, I feel comfortable. The difficult part that I hear both from those in the audience and from those on the board is this whole issue of beer and wine versus all alcohol. And I also understand Jim's point, but it is difficult because, you know, you have a situation where you've negotiated with one person, you've spent a lot of time and money, they've spent a lot of time and money, maybe we introduce someone else. So I'd like to just suggest to the board is whether or not, and I don't know if special counsel can help with this or not, but whether or not we would be able to grant the license to you folks with the understanding that the town of Foxborough might request an additional just beer and wine license from the state. And if we were to receive that, you would return the license that you got tonight and accept a beer and wine license in exchange. I don't know if that's something the board would be interested in. I don't know if that's something that you'd be interested in, but I think there's, at least I hear on the board, that we'd like to try to work with you in such a way that would allow you to come to Foxborough, be successful, but at the same time understand the concerns that people have. And it doesn't seem to be so much a beer and wine issue, it seems to be more of a spirit issue. And while you may argue that the spirits are really not an issue and we could put some conditions on it, I would ask you, and I'd ask the board to think about whether or not there's a way to do this by giving you this, by approving this license, however, requesting from the state an additional beer and wine, at which point you would agree in writing as part of this hearing that you would exchange that, and then you'd only have beer and wine going forward. So I just suggest that to the board for consideration. Mark, now go ahead.
Larry, an answer that's similar to what I was going to ask. I don't think, as the board, we can condition the license in any way, shape, or form like that. It'd be something to ask the ABCC. And I would think on a monetary standpoint, when you're paying a certain amount of money for a all-alcohol license and to trade it in for a used car, I think that might be a little bit of a troublesome situation for an investor. You know, I mean, typically an all-alcohol license on average sells for $150,000. A beer and wine would sell for $70,000 to $80,000. So it'd be very detrimental to them to take that kind of a hit. But I think everybody's feeling the same thing here. It's the all-alcohol in that vicinity that's really troublesome for, it seems like, every member of this board, and I would say at least 60 or 70% of the people in the audience. I don't think we can condition it, and I'll ask you that question.
Which condition are we talking about?
Taking a full alcohol license, reducing it to a beer and wine on let's say, a 2-year standpoint.
No, what I was suggesting,
I
Mark,
understand
is
what you're
that
saying.
we would approve the license with the understanding that if we requested a beer and wine and received an additional license from the state, that they would turn in their all-alcohol license back to the town in exchange for the beer and wine license.
I think that you can do this by agreement, but you couldn't condition it yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
If they would agree to that, I think that's acceptable. If you could, I don't think you can grant it with that condition.
Right. But it would have to be something we would agree to in order to hopefully get through the process this evening.
Would it be something that the board would ask the BCC before we voted on something like that, instead of, to get, I mean, are you positive? Is he positive? I don't know. I don't want to do something that's going to be thrown back in our face, because that would take longer than having you come back in 2 weeks. That would take a whole 60 days.
If you could do it by agreement, I see no problem with it.
You would have to do it by agreement.
You can't do it by stipulation,
Correct.
Does anybody recall, I don't know who was on the board at the time, when Toby Keefe's came in, was that a similar agreement that the town gave them a license, because we don't charge for it? The town gave Toby Keefe's a license, and the agreement was what? That they would return that at a certain time? Does anyone recall that?
I think the discussion, Jim, was that if the town were to request additional licenses for Patriot Place, as an example. Okay. Let's say they wanted X, we would subtract that 1 from the X.
So through, as Lorraine said, through special legislation, the town, at this, are we suggesting this, that the town would solicit the state to get an additional, additional beer and wine transferred over? So we would bring another liquor license into the town?
Which the town could grant or not grant, but my idea would be to, through agreement, if they would agree to then exchange the all alcohol for the beer and wine.
Larry,
I'm just trying to look for a compromise.
It's good thinking, but we had discovered years back that we had a all alcohol license on the shelf, and that was 2008, I believe, and all of a sudden we found out, nobody even knew about it. 3 package stores applied. It became a heated battle for almost a year and a half until it was finally granted to the market down by Dunkin' Donuts on 140. So that became a bigger problem. So to add another beer and wine as soon as it hits the shelf, or this one comes back, you're going to have the same problem. I mean,
well, if we're looking ahead to what the end product is going to be, so if we solicit the state, we get the beer and wine, they give back the full alcohol, we give them the beer and wine. At the end of the day, you're going to end up with a beer and wine license.
Right.
So what's the difference than if you just right now say, we don't want to pursue the liquor, we'll take the full liquor license, we'll make an agreement not to sell liquor, and we all win on this. It
like
saves us.
I don't think you can agree.
Same in Brookline.
You can't do that.
You can require that agreement from them.
But so how is it working in Brookline, I guess? So that's where
I guess they're just doing
is.
it, well, I guess in Brookline, you've chosen not to sell all alcohol, correct?
Well, the reason being is the state grants you, for every 5,000 populations, 1 full liquor license. So it's underutilizing the license. So I think now we've opened up a Pandora's box, and if they're watching, you're going to have another hearing, I would think. So
You can't grant them an all-alcoholic license and say you can't sell alcohol.
Right.
But they can do it voluntarily.
Well, they can do it. It may well be a violation. I don't know.
That's why I'm saying maybe we should ask the ABCC.
No, I got the answer already.
Okay, let's have it.
The ABCC says if you have an all-alcoholic license, you have to sell all alcohol.
Okay.
See, and that's why the confusion, because I don't think that's the case in Brookline.
Is that
I
it?
don't think you
Well-
have a full license from what the
I
AB.
think we know we have a full
Right.
license.
Andrew, do you agree with that? That's the position of the ABCC, at least? I don't know.
I do agree with that, and if you were to take that a bit further, I'm sure Mr. Cassis recognizes that the ABC's position is typically extreme deference to the local licensing authority, especially in enforcement matters.
Correct.
And I would say the situation in Brookline is there is an all-alcohol license. They've chosen not to sell spirits.
the town and the ABCC have by their absence of enforcement, sort of blessed this arrangement, and this board could certainly do likewise.
I agree. The question is, if the commission got wind of it, would they do the same thing?
Oh,
They could, but they couldn't do anything without notice and a hearing and our opportunity to contest it.
Right.
And, you know, we would understand that should we proceed down that path, we do so at our own risk. And, you know, I believe that could, you know, we're thinking along down the line, but if that were to happen and Trader Joe's then puts out their typical, you know, $75 bottles of scotches, we could certainly cure that, and there would be absolutely no impact on sales or alcohol consumption.
Correct.
Our suggestion, Mr. Chairman, would be that you grant the license as currently constituted, and we would agree to perhaps a 6-month probationary period where we wouldn't sell any spirits at all. And if we were so inclined and the business model progressed to where we wanted to do the high-end tastings of scotches and tequilas and stuff, perhaps we could come before this board again to give you another level of review.
But that would cause us...
I don't think the board can put on you that you can't sell alcohol.
We can't. No. There's no way we can do that.
You can do what you want, but I don't think it can't come from this board.
Lorraine had her hand up, so I want to let her speak.
Lou, is there any other option? Because we have currently a ton of liquor licenses, okay? I believe we have the right number. Is there any option that we have with the existing open ones?
You have extra pouring licenses.
Yes.
But you don't have an inordinate amount of package store licenses.
Correct, right.
Okay.
So
you have the appropriate quota for package stores.
Right.
None are available.
So
They're all out there.
given that we have this appropriate quota, what are our options? I mean,
I think your only option tonight is to either grant the license or deny it. I don't think you have any other option.
To transfer.
Right? Transfer the license at this location or deny it. I don't think there's another option.
Is there...
the only other thing would be some,
agreement. The agreement we talked about where...
we would go for special legislation to grant another license.
Beer and wine license with the agreement that they switch the license. I haven't heard them say they are in favor of that agreement. I don't know if that's the answer. Is that something you would be willing to agree to?
Can you restate that?
The option the chairman threw out, that town meeting request another beer and wine license, special act of the legislature, make it available to you, you turn in the all alcoholic license.
We're good at it, too.
I mean, at this point, without looking at the business deal and talking to our client and talking to the people we're under contract with, it certainly seems rather complicated. One suggestion I might make is if you're saying the board is unable to condition the license, they can condition the license. Condition down the license.
They can't condition you can't sell alcohol.
Right, no, which we're in agreement with. You know, would it be appropriate, if we're not able to enter into an agreement with the board, perhaps we could enter into agreement with perhaps the coalition, for example, a memorandum of understanding as to how we would operate. Wouldn't be binding on the board, but it would be documented evidence of our commitment on how to operate and how the board wants us to operate. And there we would say, we won't sell spirits until we come back to the board or until such time as, you know, people feel is appropriate.
I think you can do that if you want to. I would question whether you want this going up for approval with some agreement. You're not going to sell alcohol. I just don't know what the ABC, how they would treat it.
Right, if it was a memorandum of understanding with a private party, I'm not sure we would append that to the application as it went up.
You're certainly free to do that, as long as the board's not involved in that decision.
So from my perspective, I believe that you're a responsible company. I believe you have the appropriate procedures. And if my only choice was to vote for the all alcohol license or nothing, then I would support the all-alcohol license and work with you on your business model.
And we would commit here and now, whether or not it's appropriate to have this on the record, we are not going to open with spirits. And if we have to open with spirits through some arcane enforcement method, we're going to have one bottle of Johnny Walker Blue that's going to be on sale for $318, and I don't think anyone's going to buy it.
You'd be surprised.
In that case, we might order another.
Larry?
Yes, go ahead, Larry.
Jim wanted to...
Well, we closed the public hearing, so.
Okay.
So did you have something you wanted to say, Lorraine?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, Mr. Special Counsel, what are your thoughts?
I think you can either vote this up or down. I don't think you can condition it, especially a condition being you can't sell alcohol.
Okay.
And I don't think you can vote it, the legalities of voting it down has to be more than the discussion we've had here.
You have to give a reason.
The reasons that were given aren't going to stand up in my experience with the ABCC.
You have broad discretion, first of all.
Yeah.
Start there. And the issue number one is, does it serve the public need, protect the common good? That's your mantra. And if you think it does, and you vote yes, that's fine. If you think it doesn't, you can vote no.
For clarification, when you say serves the public need, what we've heard tonight is we need good food, we need convenient, a variation from other food establishments. I haven't heard that there's a need for more alcohol.
Well,
so when you say serves a public need, are you talking about alcohol or economics?
Well, first of all, I don't think you can ever find there's a need for more alcohol. It just doesn't, that's almost an oxymoron. So the question is, I think in your mind, is this a good thing or is it not a good thing?
And Jim, I think what
That's
I
the
heard
issue.
is when people are buying food, they're trying to figure out what goes with that cheese or what goes with that meat, as opposed to leaving that store, driving to another store, bringing it in, saying what goes with that. And I think that's where
Yeah, and I fully agree with that.
Let me give you an absurd example.
Hold on
Let me
one
give you an absurd example. Let's say there's a package store on one side of the street and a package on the other, already exists on the other side of the street. And someone wants to put one right beside one of the other ones to make three of them in a 500-foot area. You could easily say there's no public need for that. We already have two in the same area. As you take the locus, which is here's Patriot Place, and you start spreading out, and you say, okay, there's three within 2 miles. You can decide, well, that's enough, or you can say, well, gee, I don't think it's that bad. I think that's an appropriate level. I think when they get concentrated into very, very small areas, the issue of no public need becomes paramount, and as the area widens, you say, well, it's not as bad as it was before. So it's really up to you.
And getting back to what you had suggested, if someone's shopping and there's a need for a wine to go with the cheese, I understand that. What I haven't heard is there's a need for a bourbon to go with the cheese. There's a need for Jack Daniels to go with the cheese. If it was wine and beer, I think it would be an easy decision. The third component is the hard liquor. In that environment, I'm having a difficult time. And that's why I was suggesting if you maybe back off a little bit and look at other options. And before I mentioned it tonight, that option is out there, and you've spoken to that person. Your company has. Excuse me, sir?
Are you negotiating for them?
Michael, please.
No, I'm offering them an option rather than an all.
Michael, please be respectful.
Fiduciary conduct.
Go ahead, Jim.
What I'm suggesting is I'm uncomfortable with a package store down in the middle, and that's what the three components are, beer, wine, and liquor, in that area with the games, the NCAA, what have you, in a parking lot, not even on a road. What I'm suggesting is there another option that you've looked at that said beer and wine would work for you? And if it's not your business program and it's not going to work, if that's what I'm hearing, so be it. but not having any stores in this area that sells hard liquor and saying you need that, and only 3 other stores have wine and beer, and all the other stores don't, I'm having a hard time understanding why your business program needs all 3 to survive. That's what my question is.
Right, and it is a fair question. I mean, one thing we have to realize is the reason that 15 out of 18 don't have any alcohol at all is until January 1st, it was a law that you couldn't. You're only allowed to have 3 licenses. Now we're allowed to have a 4th license.
5.
I mean, right, we're allowed to have a 4th and perhaps a 5th if we were to have another one. I mean, I would venture to say, and Chris can correct me, that any future Trader Joe's is going to want all alcohol. I mean, whether we go to, Walpole or Franklin or, Lee or Lennox. That's the business model going forward.
But so wouldn't Stop and Shop, and so wouldn't any other grocery store, because they're all in the same boat, correct?
Right, and Stop and Shop would be selling the same 1.5 liter containers of cheap vodka that Route 1 is selling across the parking lot, and causing further problems.
I don't know the product, and I don't want to argue the price.
We would not be doing that. We have very specific brand mix that parallels the beers and wines, and it is the high-end spirits that are one of the fastest growing retail categories, and that's what customers want, and that's why we want to do it.
Larry?
Yes, Lorraine?
Lou, question. Can we continue this hearing and give Trader Joe's the opportunity to think some more about what Jim is talking about? I think what we're all struggling with, and perhaps, think about the plan that you're bringing forward here, because I really think, Trader Joe's will bring so much to Patriot Place in terms of you will be a natural draw to the area, and that would be so beneficial to Patriot Place for us to have that happen. And so we want this to happen very much, but you see the struggle that we're having with the proposal, the way it's formatted right now, and I think that we can't, public safety is our #1 goal at all times. And so we have struggled with watching the statistics in this area, and it's just something that we ask you to be sensitive about. Is that an option that we have, that we can?
Yes, absolutely. We can continue to publish.
Well, when was this filed? Do we know when this was filed? You have 30 days to act from the day it was filed, but
okay.
If he agrees, it can be put over.
We can continue. Yeah, I mean, I think
just to respond or to add to Lorraine's comment is that when you look at the clientele that goes to your store and they're paying $10 for beer and they're paying for the wine and obviously what you've talked about for the spirits, I just don't think that the average person going to a football game or a concert is going to be, walking to the other side of the stadium into Trader Joe's to buy your high-priced stuff when they can stop on 140, number of places. They can stop on Route 1, they can stop at the gas station. There's plenty of places where they can get affordable beer, wine, or spirits at a much lower price. So I guess I'm not as concerned with your clientele. And I guess to some degree, if people were that concerned, it's 8 or 10 football games a year. Is it reasonable to say on those 8 or 10 days a year when there's an event at the stadium, either a concert or a football game, maybe it's 12 or 15 or whatever the number would be, on those particular dates, can we restrict?
You
can't do that either.
Do that.
Can't do that either. They could agree to do that, but we couldn't make it mandatory.
Yes.
I mean, would you consider on those days
restrict the sale of spirits or restrict the sale of alcohol?
Restrict the sale of spirits on those days where there's an event over 20,000 people or something?
I certainly think that's something we could consider, yes.
I mean, that would certainly address the concern that the board seemed to have about not the beer and wine piece, but the spirits, and the spirits being when there's lots of people there and whether they'd be buying that to to create a problem.
Well, Larry, I also think they're talking about days of concerts, days of NCAA tournaments, and
Right,
it's,
so events of over 20,000.
So I think it's a wise, I would be in favor of continuing the public hearing so that they can go talk to their people. I'm sure that you must want to talk to somebody about these options. And then we continue it to 2 weeks from today, or whenever the board feels better. Just because, it's been a great discussion tonight. There's no doubt about it. I hate to see it end on a field discussion because of haste. So I like to make a motion that we close the no,
we already did.
Continue the
Discussion.
the public hearing.
Public hearing is closed.
Close. So continue the discussion in 2 weeks.
All right.
And decision.
And decision.
And
in 2
decision
weeks.
for 2 weeks from today's date at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Now, if these people show up, we're not going to be able to have it in the town hall. Is this going to be available?
We will start tomorrow with seeing which school is available, if that's the case. Any one of the three, or the cafeteria, or the high school library where the school committee meets. I mean, it would be, no, there hasn't been a second yet.
Second.
Now there's a second. So there's a motion to continue the discussion for 2 weeks and then make a decision. Comments from the board? I would like to have tried to resolve it tonight, but obviously if the board's not interested in doing that tonight, then.
I just don't know what we as a board can discuss, in the next 2 weeks of what we feel like we could ask them to do. I mean, if we've just asked them to do it and they're saying they think they can, then what else are we, I don't know, I just don't know what more homework I can do other than everything that we've done, so.
Can we put suggestions through Kevin and Lou, if any, if we have any other possibilities that might help the situation?
As long as 2 or more of you don't.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
If we individually send those to Kevin and you. Okay.
Are you prepared this evening? I know Mark seemed concerned that we've thrown out a couple of different options. For instance, not selling spirits on days where there's more than 20,000 people or some number at an event. And there's been other ideas back and forth. And Mark seemed to think you might want time to think about it, talk to your client, make a decision. Do you feel comfortable that you could work with us tonight, or do you feel you need the 2 weeks as well?
I feel comfortable that if perhaps we had a 5-minute recess and I was allowed to talk to my clients, we might make further progress tonight. And if not, perhaps we'd have to fall back to 2 weeks.
I think that there's some folks, a 5-minute bio break might be helpful for everybody. All right, so we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Make it 10.
Yeah, the bathrooms aren't that big. It'll take a few minutes to get. All right, we'll call the meeting back into order. Have you had a chance to talk to your client, or?
Yes, I have. If it pleases the board, we would certainly be willing to consider a scenario if the board were to grant the license as presently envisioned, where we would agree, whether it's a condition or written or our word here during the hearing, not to sell spirits during events of such a magnitude as you deem inappropriate, for example, over 20,000 or at the NCAA. I think, and I do want to say that we've made the point over and over that alcohol volume and quantity does not drive the business. The flip side of that is, alcohol pairings and food and the uniqueness of the offerings does drive the business. But we completely understand the board's concerns and the public's concerns, and even those who are not in favor of us having any alcohol, about public safety, about issues surrounding the stadium, about drunk driving. We are sensitive to that, and we want to cooperate with the board, and we want to have an operation
that fulfills our business model and does its job, but is also a good part of the community. I mean, we want to come out of this with an agreement that works for everybody. And if that's your suggestion, I think is a very good one, and we'd be comfortable with it. And if the board wants to go in that direction, we'd be very grateful.
Well, I think you'll find during event days, it's very difficult to get there to shop with the traffic and everything else. So, you know, I think you'll find those days will be difficult for yourself anyway, but overall. So, Council, what are your thoughts?
I think you can accept that as a representation and not make it a condition of the license.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board after the recess? Do you want to extend it for 2 weeks, or do you want to approve it with their offer not to sell spirits on event days above 20,000, which would be soccer, NCAA, concerts, any event at the stadium itself?
Just clarification, anything over soccer games don't even bring 12, 10, 15,000, I don't think. So I think it would have to be 10,000. And not saying that's the way I'm going. I'm just saying that would be the number I would think, not 20. And that's all I'd say at this moment.
What does 10,000 people do for you?
You know, if you feel that that's the size of a crowd that merits a restriction on the service of spirits, we would be comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Lorraine.
I guess I'm not comfortable putting a number on that yet. I mean, because I don't know by event type what the typical numbers are.
Van Warp's tour?
Right. So I just wanted to ask, during the recess, did you discuss at all the idea of the wine and cheese? Oh my God, obviously I haven't eaten dinner.
Could have brought samples.
The beer and wine option.
You know, we have discussed it.
That we go for special legislation, potentially.
Yeah, it seems to us that, you know, we could be open selling products in 12 weeks. You know, we have a contractual agreement with Mr. Varkas. We have time and effort put into this whole application process. To unwind it now just seems to me would delay the process so long that it would not be our first option.
But that's not what you were suggesting, is it, Lorraine? Oh, I thought you were suggesting giving him this one, having him.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I was not.
Okay.
Because, you know, the concern I have is the all alcohol piece of it.
Okay.
I just have a problem with that up at Route 1.
Even in non-event days?
Yes.
Okay. Linda, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess I want another clarification. I know that we can't put conditions on what they can sell, and we would just be going by the word of potentially our new partnership with Trader Joe's and the town. Nips are not a situation, because I don't care if you spend, you know, whatever you think it's going to be. I don't think that's what I would like. And what we're talking about is a small 8 by 12 foot area for just the spirits. And it's not going to be a something they can find in, say, Bill's package store right now. It would be something totally different type of spirits, or are we talking?
It would be typically unique and higher end spirits. I mean, there are.
You'd have to
when you go to certain liquor stores, you see the vodka section, and there's always 5 or 6 vodkas that have kind of fake Russian names, and they're in big gallon jugs, and they're about $6.
Okay.
We do not sell that type of thing.
Okay. And just the beer, with the potential of it being sold cold, kind of irritates this board member, but you know, I can't tell you how to do your business, but I would hope that we would be able to be open with one another and not cross that line if we don't have to.
In the 15 or so years I've been in Massachusetts, we have not sold cold beer. We don't have any specialized cases earmarked for cold beer at this point. It's just not something that we've done. Again, you know, it's not something I want to sit here and say we're never going to do it, because it would be foolish for me to do that. But I will say it's not something that we've done. It's not something that we have earmarked on this floor plan. There's nothing different about this store layout than any other store layout in my region or any of the other regions of the company.
And Chief O'Leary is aware of this 8x12 section that would be high-end, or?
He certainly is now.
Hi, Chief. I see you hiding back there anyways. Can we talk to the chief, or is
Chief,
that?
do you have a moment to come down? One of the board members has a question for you. Don't want to put you on the spot, but...
I do. Chief, just, I've never gone to a Trader Joe's. Have you gone to a Trader Joe's?
I have not.
Okay. So they're talking about this high-end spirits. Are you concerned about that?
No, because many of the problems we have with younger people, they don't have the financial capacity or the drive to make purchases. It's volume, and you can't make volume when you only have $20 to buy a $100 bottle of scotch.
Right. Yeah, well, true. Okay.
What about the $2 chuck?
Which isn't $2 anymore, it's what?
How much is it?
Can I ask what $2 chuck?
It's $2.99.
$2.99?
Yeah, now it's $2.99.
Okay.
I'm more concerned from what I've seen among young people and their drinking habits. It's primarily beer, and there's been a noticeable switch to various types of spirits in terms of vodkas, rums, of that nature, and occasionally wine, but that's very rare, even amongst young women in their 20s.
So, but they wouldn't be buying this high-end stuff anyway?
Again, I don't perceive they would be, because it's driven by the market. Studies have shown that just by adding an alcohol tax, it cuts underage drinking by 15%. So if 10 or 15 cents changes drinking habits, $10 or $20 difference is certainly going to keep younger people out of the market.
Out of that, okay. And then this is kind of on a side note, but the prepared meals that you have, is that related to the meals tax at all? Do you know, Kevin, or does it?
What was that question?
The prepared meals that they have at their facility, they had mentioned, is that?
Anything over $1 on meals tax?
I think it's just like the fresh sandwiches and the fresh salads.
Okay.
The stuff that's prepared fresh daily.
Okay.
I don't think it has.
Thanks, Chief.
Linda, anything else?
Nope.
Lorraine, anything else?
I'd just like to see a postponement for 2 weeks, if we could. I'd like to visit one of the stores that has a license. I haven't been in one to see it.
Okay. Jim, anything?
A couple statements I keep hearing when you're saying, oh, we don't sell that, and then Chief is saying, you know, it's market driven. You haven't sold a lot of stuff because you don't sell spirits. You haven't gone through the market driven in this area because you haven't been in an area where there's 70,000 people coming in. So when there's a lot of people coming in on a cold night and want nips or want something else, you haven't gone through that. You guys haven't managed a store that has full alcohol. So there's nothing that we can do on this board to regulate that. Once this is running, my concern is you are going to change with the market, and the market is going to say cheap alcohol during game days. I don't see any way around that, because you're not going to close the doors when there's such a demand for something, because you haven't been through that. You have not sold hard alcohol in a stadium event type atmosphere. So there's nothing on this board that we can do to regulate any of that stuff, and I think we're at the whim of kind of hope that things go well.
If I may.
Sure, please.
You know, I certainly understand your point. However, if you look at the business model of Trader Joe's over the years, if you look at the hundreds of stores they have, you know, that type of thing has never been a problem. You know, there is probably no other location like Patriot Place in the United States. So we're all certainly at the whim of the location in the stadium to some degree. However, we also understand, and I think your licensing council can confirm, that the board and the town's enforcement powers over licensees are both broad and deep. And if we sit here today on the public record and say, we're not going to sell nips, and then you come to the store during a playoff game in January, and there we are, selling them by the dozens, I would expect that we're going to be before the board, whether on that issue or another, rather quickly and in a rather bad light. Never mind the enforcement from the police, who we've promised that we wouldn't do this to.
But I think that's my point. If we're doing this as a courtesy, there's no binding. What regulatory powers would the selectmen have to bring you in to discuss selling nips if by law you're allowed to sell nips regardless of what you say tonight? There's no, well, maybe you can speak to that.
I think they can agree that they won't sell nips. That's binding.
And that's binding?
Yeah, they agree to.
So they could agree not to sell nips, not to sell spirits on game days, on events above 10,000, whatever they that would be put into the record.
They can agree to that.
They can agree with
it. In perpetuity?
Yes.
In perpetuity, sir?
Which we would be happy to do. I mean, and not only because we don't do it at several hundred other full liquor licenses and our history is clear, but also because you're asking, and we want to be a good neighbor.
Okay, it's now 10:15. We're only about 2 hours behind schedule. Is there any motion on the board, either to come back in 2 weeks or to approve the license transfer with the offer on their part to not sell nips and to not sell spirits on events at the stadium where there are more than 10,000 people?
And we're characterizing that as a binding condition. Is that
You're characterizing
correct,
that,
counsel?
yes.
Yes.
And what does the 10,000 represent? We've got Revolution games, we've got UMass games, we've got NCAA games. Where does that 10,000 play into those activities?
When you know, we can ask, we got someone here from the organization, but there are very few events at the stadium that are less than 10,000 people. But maybe, do we have a representative?
Yes, General Counsel for the Raptor, 10,000 would cover most soccer games, concerts, football games, concerts, pretty much everything you can think about with the exception of smaller events like we had women's lacrosse a couple of Saturdays ago.
It's very difficult to put a number on it, though.
I'm not comfortable with
I
the
mean, is
number.
that pre-sold tickets, or do they, you know, hit the hotline button when it exceeds 10,000 at Ticketron and the stadium?
What if?
What's left? Well, why don't we just say events? There's nothing left that's under 10,000.
So the question would be, you know, would you agree to, when there's an event at the stadium?
If I could, we have events all the time in the club, you know, weddings, bar mitzvahs, things of that nature. That we wouldn't want to have any confusion about that. What we're talking about is ticketed events above a certain size, and I can certainly...
That's what I was referring to, right? Because that's what the people are concerned, that when you have people in the parking lots for events, they would they could misbehave and use this as an opportunity to misbehave. So
it'd be ticketed events inside the bowl.
Ticketed events inside the bowl.
Sounds good.
And just for clarification.
Right. So to make it as specific as we could, any ticketed events inside the bowl, you would agree not to sell spirits.
And actually, for clarification,
or nips ever.
Should we say inside the envelope of the bowl, just for more clarification? Because, you know, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm sick of being told I'm wrong by lawyers, to tell you the truth.
I don't know what the envelope of the bowl is.
Inside the envelope of the bowl, because then this, all of a sudden you say you're not in the bowl, but you're on the playing field. You know, that's what I mean.
We don't sell tickets to the playing field. If we're selling tickets to the seats.
How about inside the stadium?
Inside the stadium?
Because he's saying he has events in Fidelity and everything
But
else.
those are not ticketed, are they? If you have a wedding, you have to have a ticket to go to the wedding.
Public events.
Well, how about it's called a sporting event? Is that?
Well, there's concerts, and those aren't sporting events, so.
What I would suggest is, any event that we're selling tickets to the stadium bowl, that would be any of the blue seats, the red seats that you see when you come into the stadium. And that would be the type of thing that would capture what I think the board is concerned about.
And then it's black and white, there's no gray issues, it doesn't matter whether it's 10,000, 12,000, or 8,000. In any events where the tickets are being sold in the stadium, you would agree not to sell spirits on those days, and you would agree never to sell nips.
Yes, we would.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be picky, but a few years ago, we had a battle between the town in the stadium when there was an outdoor concert. And that went back to ticket prices, and it wasn't a ticket, and it went back, I'm sure you recall that. So in any event, I don't, if it's in the stadium or in the parking lot, and it's a tailgating event that's sponsored, I think it's under the same category, because we've been through that before.
I think the language ticketed event would cover that. Inside or outside the bowl, or whatever you want, the stadium, but I mean, just, I mean, you're kind of throwing things around here that you need to make it, that's why I pushed for the.
I'll draw something up tomorrow.
It's, you know.
We could certainly, I think we all agree in principle as to what the goal is.
Yes. That's, you know.
Can
Go ahead, Lori.
I just still want to go back to the thought of us applying for potentially special legislation for the beer and wine piece of it. I mean, is that something that the board is not interested in discussing?
I would feel a whole lot more comfortable if there was a beer and wine license.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to hold up their construction or their opening or anything else. So I suggested that only so that we could go forward with this. But they've come back and said that the spirits piece is part of their future, and as a compromise would not do it in the days we're most concerned, which is when there are people in the parking lot doing their things.
So are you saying that if you don't get the full license with spirits, then Trader Joe's will not come to Foxborough? Is that the statement?
Why are we clapping?
I don't know. I'm not trying to be facetious or cute or anything. That's what it comes down to. If it's either everything or nothing, and that's what I'm trying to get through, and I want it on record.
I'm saying that if the board were to indicate that they're leaning against giving us the spirits license, it might be appropriate to have a 2-week continuance at that point. But I'm telling you that when I'm on the phone tomorrow morning with the people from Trader Joe's, it's going to be a negative and disappointing conversation, and I would say my chances of coming back here are less than they are now.
Even if wine and beer was an option, like all the other stores, like the other 3 stores that have it?
I mean, I would certainly do my best to prevail upon the powers that be, but I have my marching orders, and the business model is to go forward with spirits.
We're trying to find a compromise because we want you here.
Right, and we want to be here, and that's the only reason I talk like a lawyer in answering your question, is because we don't want it to come to that.
Right.
So I think what I'm having a hard time understanding, if you're downplaying the amount of shelves you're going to have for liquor, and you're going to put it on this little area, and it's going to be a very expensive bottle just to get by, because that's what the license dictates, that you have some liquor. But on the other hand, you're saying you're not going to come to town if you don't have that small shelf with that expensive bottle of liquor. Something's not right here with me, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. And you know, the town has a lot invested in trying to work with the stadium and all the liquor, but like I had said before, we gave them an extra one on the same understanding that 12 didn't work out. We gave them the 13th. And then to make this jump on something that just doesn't seem right, where it's a business model, yet it's a proposed business model that doesn't work with the stores that you have already. And just because you can do it doesn't mean, you know, that we should just jump in there and let you try it on this environment. And I'm struggling with that. I really am.
I understand what you're saying, but there's also a timing issue. We have a contract with the seller for a significant amount of money. We have a build-out schedule. We have staffing issues. We have a plan to be open, and all these things are tying into that and sort of tying our hands. I mean, if I
no, and I'm not looking past that, but I'm looking at the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years over something that the town has worked very hard to trying to work on how best to work on that S1 district, and to just throw a liquor license for full liquor license because 2 weeks is going to be not convenient for the schedule. That's not very forward thinking on my side. With the understanding, I don't want to turn the business away, but not giving 2 weeks to give us a little more comfort where our council can write something up, we can review it. It's a little short-sighted looking at the big picture, I think.
Well, I think part of what's difficult is we've had a discussion. We've put forth concerns about event days, and they've said they would address it. We've brought forward concerns about the NIPS, and they've addressed that. What else is it that the board would want to address in the next 2 weeks that they couldn't agree to this evening, as an example? I mean, do you have other concerns that we want to get on the table?
It's a little bit,
otherwise, the town council, I mean, special counsel, if he's going to draft something, he has to know clearly what's on the mind of the 5 board members, rather than have individual conversations with each board member, but rather have it out in the public like we're doing tonight. So if there are other concerns, could we get them out?
Yeah, I think the concern I have is the overall ability to have any agreement that we have here binding. I don't have a lot of experience with the ABCC, but we're kind of learning as we're going here, throwing these conditions out. And I don't have a lot of confidence that these conditions are going to pass the next Board of Selectmen a year from now, 2 years from now, as things change, as the state changes their liquor license requirements to add more licenses to chains. So to vote on something not knowing or getting some feedback from the ABCC or our special counsel on this is difficult.
Can you answer the question?
They and you can agree to those 2 conditions.
And they're binding?
Yeah.
Annually,
Yes.
binding.
Binding forever?
Every time you renew it.
Right.
If you know, like at the Boston Garden, they don't sell beer at NCAA games.
Right.
I'm sure that's by agreement.
As opposed to the license?
But it's also NCAA rules.
That's NCAA rules.
Yeah, but that's still.
They don't control messages.
That doesn't.
They have to agree.
The licensees can say, look, we sell beer. They want.
Then the NCAA doesn't play there.
That's right.
It doesn't work that way.
But they can do it by agreement. In other words, the ABC is not forcing the Boston Garden to sell them beer. They say, okay, if you have an agreement where you're not going to sell beer at an NCAA game, fine, don't sell beer. I think you can make the same agreement here.
Well, you know, one thing, I just want to caution the board, because I think we're getting a little off base in a lot of ways here. Where the way we can either issue the license, transfer the license, grant the license, whatever you want to call it, they're very clear. There's only 3 or 4 points that we can make. And I think we're getting a little way off base here on when it comes to what we can do. It's very clear to me in black and white. You either say no because of certain reasons, say yes for certain reasons. When you get into all the conditions and everything, I think Jim's exactly right. It's very vague, and it's very misleading. And, you know, we've heard the word good faith so many times back and forth with so many different entities that it's become one of those things, you know, like you don't buy a car and give the guy the money for the car and say you get the title in 10 days. You get the title when you buy the car.
Well, no, you don't. The registry sends you the title.
Well, you know,
right.
I'm saying
well,
if you're
get
buying a used car,
but you got special
you guys
counsel
get the
here
title.
today. He's telling you, all right, Kevin brought him in because he's a specialist in this field. And that's why we use him now on alcohol issues instead of town council, because this is his field of expertise. He's saying that they can agree to those conditions, and he's saying he can draft something. So that theoretically the board could approve it subject to the final draft that he puts together, and that draft would bind them to the conditions that they've offered the board. And what they've offered the board is that they would not sell spirits on ticketed events at the stadium, and that they would never sell nips. If there's anything else anyone wanted, they could, and town council, special counsel would write that up.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
I'm sorry, just one second. Lorraine had her hand up. And then I'll go right back to you.
Larry, what I think I'm hearing Jim and Mark and myself saying is that can we look at what an agreement would look like that we can award this license with a condition that we apply for special legislation to get one more beer and wine? And then...
And then what, you didn't take their license, or I don't think you
and
can
then,
unless they agree to that.
That's what I'm saying, to have that agreement.
When I suggested that earlier, I didn't sense that the board was interested in that.
Well, I think their role model 2 doesn't plan for that, Lorraine, is what they're saying, that they wouldn't. Clarification, you're not interested.
That goes back to Jim's question, asking them if they would not come in if they didn't get everything.
Right, because I mean, my whole thing is the alcohol, the spirits piece of it, really. You know.
So
we're losing the crowd.
I think
it doesn't sound like the board is going to come to consensus.
I just want to remind the board right now that I know it's the alcohol license itself, but it's not a package store. It's a grocery store that specializes in food. It's, you know, I think we're really digging some, you know, just fascinating stuff here, but I really believe that we need to stay focused on, you know, what it actually is. And it's actually a grocery store that specializes in special food, special beverages, and it's not another package store. It's not, you know, they don't even have beer coolers, you know? Just let's remember that. Yeah, do I like anybody coming in town and saying, you either give me the whole kit and caboodle or I'm not coming to this place? No, I take umbrage to that, I really do. But I'm not gonna scold them for it, but, you know, who doesn't want to be in Foxborough? Anybody who comes to Foxborough wants to stay. You know, it's a great place. And, you know, we're honored to have you come here, and we're hoping that you'll be respectful and great neighbors and work with us, and that's the way it goes, folks. Like, I think we're getting a little jiggity, and we shouldn't.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
And we certainly appreciate the opportunity to have this dialogue back and forth and to consider the different options, and that's why we're willing to agree to these conditions. And just to be clear, and the chairman is correct that you have one of the most experienced liquor licensing councils in the state. I mean, he knows how the process works. And if this is not a new area of law, if conditions are imposed on a liquor license by a board, they have the force of law when voted. I mean, this is not a good faith issue. This is not something we're offering. This is a regulatory imposition that you are putting on the license that has the force of law. And if we break it, there are serious consequences. This isn't us saying, yeah, we'll try to be good citizens and do it. This is a legally binding motion that you would pass that would constrain the license.
Go ahead.
I just don't want to characterize the condition. We're going to do it by agreement, as opposed to a conditional license. It's not imposed by us, it's agreed by parties. And that's just a fine point, but.
for the record.
So, it's already 10:30, and we've got a lot more work to do. Would ask the board to consider two things. Either one, allowing us to go on to the next agenda item and allowing special counsel to see if he can draft something that would be satisfactory to the board before we end the evening. Or two, someone make a motion that we continue the decision until our next meeting. But one way or another, we need to move on because we've got a lot of other things to cover tonight.
I think for the sake of drafting, continuance would be the better option. But I'm not sure it makes sense unless you have a preliminary vote that these conditions will carry the day. If it's not going to carry the day,
and you don't want to waste your time.
There's no sense for after it.
Well, that's what I was trying to get the board to kind of coalesce around whether or not it would be worth doing that or not. But we can't seem to get to any place.
It's still for me a stalemate right now, isn't it?
Motion to continue the discussion at our next
We've already
meeting.
got that out there. I already put it out, you seconded it, we never voted on
Okay.
it. Just-
We've been discussing the motion for
Yeah.
some time.
So,
Sorry.
That's right.
thank you, though.
So the chairman will call the question then. And the motion is to continue for 2 weeks. But if we do that,
I'll draft something.
based on what you heard this evening.
Yeah.
Well, you guys will collaborate,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye.
Okay.
I'm going to leave this for Kevin.
Okay. Mr. Pecos, you still here? Or did you leave? Forward. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you hearing us for this
You'll work
long.
directly with special counsel.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Pecos, being that it's 10:30,
I have some suggestions for you, Mr. Chairman.
yes, I would like to hear some.
First, we not deal with the fire overtime project tonight
I would
because we cannot do that justice, obviously, under the circumstances, and it's not time sensitive.
Correct.
Secondly,
Well, I just would correct you to say not time sensitive. Those would argue that if we're wasting overtime, it is time sensitive, but I think the point is that the fire chief and yourself are putting a lot of attention on this, and if people read the report, you're already monitoring and
Right.
addressing and changing behaviors.
Yep, we're already
time
doing
is
it.
of the essence, but you're behaving in a way to minimize the cost to the taxpayer.
Correct. Secondly, the executive session minutes, you don't have to do that tonight. We've got an exec session next week anyways, you can do it then. That would leave just the town meeting warrant and the pay plan, both of which are town meeting discussions, and obviously those are the priority because town meeting is in 4 weeks, 5 weeks away, and we've only got 2 meetings before then to deal with board positions. Now, I think the majority of the town meeting warrant articles that are on tonight are fairly routine. A couple aren't, but most of them are. And my suggestion to the board would be on the warrant is to go through them, the chair to take a motion of support or non-support to the extent that they're not going to be lengthy debates, so we can get those in the can and be done with that many articles, and come back at the next meeting with a much smaller list. And on the non-union pay plan, the board had asked that that I meet with the various boards, committees, and commissions that have employees that are covered by the plan. We've done that, and I think we have universal endorsement. Those letters are here for you. There are a couple conditions that you'll see some of the boards and committees asked for that respect their particular employees that we could deal with. We don't have to deal with it right now. We can deal with those at a later date. But I think the board will find that the reaction is fairly overwhelming support.
So why don't we do the warrant first and see what time it is when we finish with that?
Okay. Just so that you know, the pay plan is a subject of the warrant.
Correct.
It's one of the articles.
That may, but that could take 30 minutes. So let's, as you said a few minutes ago, let's do the ones that are no-brainers, that everybody's in agreement on.
Great.
And since we've already included everything in here, it's just a matter of whether the board votes to support or not support.
Correct.
Okay? So Article 1 is the annual town elections. There's no need for that. I mean, there's no need for a motion on that. There are needs for the town.
There is a need.
The town report, we don't vote on that. Reports of the committees, we don't vote. So the first one is Article 4, the operating budget, and I believe we voted yes for that the other night.
Yep.
We also voted, I thought, yes for the capital budget.
You did.
Which is number 5. Article 6, let's come back to that if we could. That's the
bylaw.
Personnel bylaw. 7 is the fire contract.
Correct. Now, that's not ready, and I'm not, if it is ready, I'll report back to you, but we've still got 4 or 5 weeks, but it's not ready tonight.
Okay. Article 8, police contract.
Again, not ready.
Article 9.
The highway contract, just waiting for what I hope is one final meeting, but it's not ready tonight.
Article 10.
That one is complete. You've seen that. You voted it. The library union has voted it, and the library board of trustees have voted it. So unanimous consent.
Motion to support Article 10.
Motion by Lorraine.
Second.
Second by Jim. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
11 of the supplemental transfers for the current fiscal year to meet the expenses. I think you're pretty much aware of all these. Randy briefed you in, but I can give you any information you need on any of them. And all they are, we're moving money from one place in the budget where it's surplus to another place where we're running over.
Right, and we had a discussion as to the inappropriateness of dead interest, but again, it's moving money from one account to another. So, do we have a motion to support Article 11?
Motion to support Article 11.
Motion by Jim. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
12 is the routine revolving account article. This is actually part of the budget. You've sort of already done it, but requires a separate motion.
Is there a motion? Do I have a motion on Article 12?
A motion to support Article 12.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Article 13.
13 is the OPEB funding article using meals tax.
I make a motion to approve Article 13.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Article 14.
This is to increase the balance in the stabilization fund by taking money from available surplus.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 14.
Second.
Motion second. Motion by Jim, second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
This is the article for reducing the borrowing on the Boyden Library project. Now, this would be one of the options for how you can use that surplus budget money.
Kevin, we've cautioned not using the word surplus.
Not levying to the full levy capacity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you may want to come back to this on another night. Randy is away right now at a seminar, so I don't have him available to help me to give you the pros and cons of the two approaches, i.e. large using it one time to give a large subsidy or a large return to the taxpayers versus use it over 20 years to do a small one but write down debt. I'd like to come back and give you the pros and cons and the impacts.
Yep. Number 16.
That's the reduced borrowing on Oak Street Water Treatment Plant. I think we've talked about this a number of times.
This is taking excess dollars from a prior project and putting it against this project.
Yep.
Make a motion to support Article 16.
Second.
There's a motion. Lorraine seconded it. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 17.
This is the routine Chapter 90 highway expense. Good news, we're going to get about $650 this year, which is about a $100,000 increase. And that, in addition to the money we're going to use on a meals tax, is going to give us about $750,000 road repair budget, which by probably late in the fall, I think people in town are going to start seeing a dramatic improvement on a lot of town roads.
Good. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Linda.
Second.
Second by Lorraine. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Article 18.
This is the article that allows us, it's one more procedural thing that we need in order to do the solar project at the landfill.
Move to support Article 18.
There's a motion to support Article 18 by Linda.
Second.
Second by Lorraine. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Article 19.
19 and 20 are two articles regarding abandonment of town land that we're not any longer using. The DPW director was here earlier.
He's here now.
Okay.
He's
And he
coming
can
up.
tell you more about this. I don't know a lot about it, but it's agreed to by all the boards involved. I know that much. And thank you, Raj, for staying. He's
He's just
nursing
in
a
time,
terrible.
Roger. It looks like he's just
He had a
walking in.
terrible cold that he hung in here all night long.
In 1980, the board, the town-wide
Roger, would you use that microphone so folks at home can hear you if they're still awake?
In 1980, the town widened Oak Street, and shortly thereafter, they changed the intersection with, Cocasset Street. They made it a right-angle intersection instead of having it at a sharp angle that it had been before. Shortly after that, there was a water main on the old part of it. That was moved. And sometime later, there was a gas main on the old part of it. That was moved to the new right-of-way. So there's no longer any use for this piece of right-of-way that was abandoned by town meeting. And the owners of the land from which that piece was taken have petitioned to acquire it back. And that's the standard procedure for right-of-way. If it was taken from them and it's no longer needed, it usually goes right back to them.
At no cost to them?
No cost to them, other than legal fees.
Right, okay. So any motion on Article 19 and 20?
I move to support Article 19 and 20.
Motion by Linda, second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Article 21.
Roger, is this part of the same thing?
Somewhat. At one point in time, the Conservation Commission was using the part that was abandoned as a right-of-way to get to conservation land, but they no longer need it and they no longer use it. Now there's a defined right-of-way for them to get into the conservation land.
Okay. Motion to support Article 21.
Make a motion to support Article 21.
Motion by Jim.
Second.
Second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Article 22, Stretch Energy Code.
22 is the Stretch Energy Code. I think the board's familiar. This is part of our attempt to take the community so-called green according to state law and access some significant energy savings and also access some very significant grants.
But I thought I understood that we weren't going to, AdCom voted against this, I believe, 11-0. What was AdCom's decision on this, on the stretch code?
I believe we voted to recommend that it be accepted.
What was it?
6-4, I think.
6-4?
Yeah, I believe that's true. That's my recollection.
Okay. I know the state's going to mandate it in the future. I don't care either way what the board decides. It's coming, whether it comes this year or next year.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 23.
No,
Nope,
22.
sorry.
22.
Get on my
Tricky,
stretch
tricky,
code.
Jim, huh?
It's 3 pages long.
Yep,
Article
22.
22.
Motion by Jim.
Second.
Second by Linda. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion 4-1. Lorraine, you opposed? Okay, so motion passed 4-1. Article 23.
23 is the article that allows the town to make up the difference between a soldier's salary and his regular civilian pay. This is for town employees in the event that they're deployed. And the chairman of the Veterans Council and the Veterans Agent, I think I see on the lights.
Bob's still back there.
Tough. I think they were here to speak to you on this.
Okay, you want to come up front, gentlemen?
Is that Bob and Mike out there?
Yep.
The microphone is over here, on the right, if you want to come down those stairs, that path. All right, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman and Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, this is the article that would make up the pay difference for a deployed member of the reserves or National Guard or Air Guard who is a municipal employee. It was passed in 2003, and it applies to, when it was passed, it applies to state employees, county employees, and municipal employees for towns and cities that adopt this act. This act has been adopted by many of our surrounding communities, and it applies to a lot of employees. I'll mention a few that it does apply to, and this is just a short list of some town sites that I visited this afternoon. The surrounding towns of Easton and Norton, which are two of our district members in the Veterans District, they have adopted this article. The towns of Rentham, Norfolk, Medway, Taunton, Everett, Braintree, Cambridge, and Wareham have also adopted it. I'm sure there are many more, but these are, this is what I just looked at briefly this afternoon. This is also the same sort of procedure that many many companies have adopted for their employees, and I'll give you just an example of some of the companies that have done this. General Motors, Ford, Sears, Boeing, Costco, Starbucks, Safeco, Northrop, Cummins, Chrysler, Toyota, Raytheon, BAE Systems, Lockheed Martin, St. Cloud, to mention a few. And what this is, the intent of this article is that when you have someone working in the private or municipal sector and they're called to duty because of war, and this is not intended to be enacted when someone is called to their weekend duty or to their 2 weeks training. It is only for active deployment. The intention is when you have someone at a certain pay level and then they're called because of duty to their country, it is so that they don't lose their home, so that they aren't set back, so they don't take a $20,000 or $30,000 hit when they're called to serve their country. I believe this is a good act. I think this is something we should support. It's also something that's not only unique to Massachusetts. Here are a couple of states that have done the same thing to protect their Guard and Reserve members who are serving both state, county, and city municipal level. Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Kansas, state of Washington, Nevada, New Hampshire, Arizona, and Massachusetts are amongst a few. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions from the board? Well said. Is there a motion to support Article 23?
Support Article 23.
Second.
Motion by Linda, second by Lorraine. Discussion?
One question.
Yep.
Does this include benefits package, Michael? Along with the pay? Is it just pay or is it benefit package too? Just for clarification. Because I don't think they're the same thing. If a guy goes off.
This relates to just salary.
No, the law says base pay only, correct, Mike?
Correct.
Doesn't include specialty pays and overtime and all that stuff.
But no, I'm talking about health insurance.
No, it doesn't include any of that.
No.
It's base pay only.
No, this is just base salary.
Okay.
Okay.
That's right. That's actually right in the paragraph in here.
Right.
Base pay only.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Article,
Mike.
thank you, Tom. Thank you, Michael. Article 24.
24 is the change to the general bylaws regarding North Street parking, and you've already voted that. Obviously, it's your article, but you probably should vote it again, just for the record.
Motion to approve Article 24.
You're going to abstain?
Yeah, just clarification, you're calling it North Street parking, but there's nothing in here about North Street.
Well, it
covers the whole town.
Yeah, thank you. It's a misnomer.
I'm going to recuse myself, even though
it's the whole town.
It's the whole town.
It's actually north and south of the stadium is where we're having a problem, so it's the whole town.
The whole town.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Mark.
Second.
Second by Lorraine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And one abstention.
And that is
4-0-1.
everything except for the non-union employee bylaw article and the zoning is teed up for next week.
All right, so we'll do that next week, is that what we're going to do?
If you, the zoning bylaw, planning board will be, not when next week, the week after, planning board will be coming in to see you on those. I know I just gave you those letters tonight, so, you know, that's up to you if you want to take action on that or not.
I would rather have a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn on the table. Is there a second? There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned.
I just handed around a thing on the storm. I'll take a look at that.